have to keep in mind as well on this 5.6 patch that we've been on the entire playoffs is taking the champion pools from those semifinal matchups is very important. Cloud9 and TSM scrimmed heavily against each other in preparation of each of their own semifinal matchups, and what they played there is most of what we're going to be seeing in the finals. Add in a few picks they've picked up in the week since, knowing that they are facing each other in the finals.
Well, Rumble and Thresh are going to be the ones banned out here with that support ban. I've heard TSM go back and forth between Thresh and Janna, so we may see that getting picked up in some kind of safe composition for them. And right now, the homework seems to be done quite well, taking away priority picks while still getting a few flex in there as well. That Vladimir is a good ban out for the Cloud9 side.
Yeah, it's interesting. It feels like they're fearful of either the top lane or mid lane Vladimir, despite Cloud9 not playing any of it in the semifinals, but it is honestly, in my opinion, one of the best picks on this patch, especially if Team Solo Mid wants to run a lane tank for Dyrus, which is what they did in the last 2 games in the semifinals, where Dyrus played Maokai and Sion in games 3 and 4 against Team Impulse.
Well, something that TSM kind of faced with a ban towards them like that, Impulse rather, banned that Cassiopeia. They were a little confused because they didn't play the cast. It's kind of the same idea with the Vladimir not being played by Cloud9, but it's still something that they fear. That Janna actually gets banned out too, so Lustboy gets hit with 2 along with Dyrus's.
They are targeting, surprisingly, Lustboy's support champion pool. We know Lustboy is a very good disengage support, but with the Nautilus ban being thrown at Elimination, that was actually Lustboy's 3rd support. So they're now pushing Lustboy down to number 4, and those target bans at support also suggest that Elimination may have been working on something special. He is usually the first one in North America to pull out supports, and we were talking a little bit about a potential support Kennen, which maybe we'd see from Elimination now that all these supports are banned out.
Yeah, it hasn't really made its way over here just yet. But it would be awesome if Sneaky could also pull out that Kalista combo. Gragas gets taken away, something Meteos and Santorin have both been using to great effect throughout the last few weeks of the split. And you would see that in EU huge as well.
I feel like Meteos will match the Gragas with the Sejuani pick eventually. I don't know when it will happen in this draft. I'm not sure which jungler Meteos actually values higher. He's a bit of a troll when you talk to him. I was trying to ask him about it, and he asked me, which jungler do you think is better? I said, I think Gragas wins. He smiled and said, we'll see about that.
We'll see about that. Well, I like the fact that both teams are like, the junglers are going to play something that's going to be good anyways, so let's ban out other lanes, and the junglers can get to pick what they want. No jungle bans here, so that Gragas goes over, and we see Cloud9 now with the Maokai and the Urgot to come out.
That Urgot's very intriguing because it can go in either the mid lane or the bottom lane. It flexes like that. Wild Turtle also had a really bad time in laning phase against Urgot when Apollo played it in the semifinals. It also opens up the possibility for Cloud9 to build a heavily tanky team, which would diminish Bjergsen's effectiveness if he picks an assassin. It's actually very, very potent from a champ select and versatility perspective to have Urgot locked in that early.
Well, Dyrus is saying, yep, yawn Lulu once again. Let's do it. Keep safe in the top lane and the Kog'Maw. They literally are sticking to their guns if they pick the Kog'Maw here. Within the video they just released, they said if we ever get that composition again and we have a Lulu, just pick the Kog'Maw. It'd be crazy if they actually just stick with that.
They do have some protection stuff ready to go with it.
Nami too.
They almost, oftentimes, I say a team is best served by just locking in the champions immediately, but I think it was a little bit of a mind game there, hovering the Kog'Maw, saying, you guys don't want to pick all tanks, we'll just pick Kog'Maw. We're going to do it. We're crazy. But honestly, Lustboy being pushed down to his 4th support, Nami, is a throwback actually more to last split, where he played a lot of Nami. And it is also good disengage against a tank team, which Cloud9 is building up real fast.
World of Tanks team. Look at this. Sejuani and Braum as well. So they're bringing the ice with the last 2 picks there. Going to be a great fight composition from Cloud9, something they have a forte in.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Now the question will be, how does TSM counter this? You know, Vladimir is already banned away. He's good against a lot of tank tops. You want to be able to build something that does sustained damage, AoE damage, or shredding damage against a tank. Orianna Kog'Maw is pretty good, but it makes them have one source of threat. Ziggs in an AD carry would punish their grouping aspect. That's something that Cloud9's team is going to do. It's going to group heavily. So therefore, Ziggs and Jinx right there, that's a lot of AoE damage that can maybe punish a tank ball.
You were correct that Turtle had a hard time against that Urgot, but once they got out of lane, he was definitely racking up the kills with a Jinx. So he will once again pick that Jinx. We'll see if this is actually sneakies, though.
I like the Ziggs a lot more compositionally, but in order for Bjergsen to be on a playmaker who can roam and impact lanes, Ahri is his style of pick. That's more of a pick that is just saying he is going to beat high and be able to impact other lanes. Yeah. Not as much about the team fights, because if Bjergsen can win the lane, then he will have the impact in those team fights.
Well, hopefully they can get a little bit of wave clear for Cloud9 in this last pick. Not a whole lot represented by this tank lineup that they're bringing to the table just yet. They can sure fight a good fight, though.
Well, now we'll get to see whether they pick an AD carry or a mid laner, which will define Cloud9's team composition. We've been wondering what high breaks out. What if they did a Corki mid here and then threw Urgot in the bottom lane? Corki was High's best pick pretty much in the semifinals.
That is still left up.
Or just speed for the Tonks.
So there's their wave clear.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I can't wait to see High's Urgot here against Ahri. That's maybe what's going to make or break this game here, because if High can prevent Bjergsen from roaming, the tank ball in teamfights could be overwhelming from Cloud9 since they get the Sivir speed behind it. But looking at TSM's team composition, it's a lot of comfort champions or old comfort champions. Recent comfort with the Gragas on Santorin, and old school comfort with Lustboy on Nami. We'll see how practiced he's kept that with all the other supports he's been.
Bjergsen as well, tipping back to Ahri on this one's going to be very nice for him. A super comfortable laning phase in that one if he can stay away from those charges. We have not really seen High on this Urgot. Loco said it's up to him on Cloud9's side to be the one to pull out all the stops, the new champions, and do that. It was funny listening to Bjergsen because he's worried about Meteos and Santorin. He thinks they'll have the biggest matchup. So everybody's got their mind set on somebody else who's going to do well in this match, which means I think we'll get a good game from everyone, Jad.
Yeah, and we know with these guys, the game one, while it is important in the overall context of the series, does not decide the series in any way. A lot of times they're champion pool testing in these first games, and things will change drastically afterwards. But honestly, those are some pretty cool team compositions for game one.
Let's see what happens. We've had best of fives for a last 6 or 7 series.
Both the semifinal series in Europe were best of 5. The third place matches were all best of 5. The first finals was best of 5.
So the teams are loading onto the Rift. Let's see if we can get another one. Let us know how you think the series is going to play out. Tweet hashtag TSM win or hashtag C9 win to @LOL Esports. And as always, we'll be checking those throughout the game and see how you are voting. The crowd is ready. All the lights lighting up, the thunder sticks being clapped. The crowd outside is ready as well. We are on to the Rift for Game 1 of the 2015 North American Spring Split Finals.
I think it's safe to say everyone is ready for this one, Riv.
Man, I wonder if it separated TSM inside and Cloud9 outside.
No, I think that's just all TSM fans.
I didn't really hear any chants.
There are a lot of Cloud9 fans, but there are many more TSM fans.
Indeed.
As we have learned.
Woo! Just got to get it calibrated and figure out where everything is. Scope was off a little bit. So the early wards aren't getting too deep here. Santorin's obviously able to just brute that one in. I'll give Meteos a little... No, it should be down before he goes for his Raptors, rather. So nothing big coming from anybody in the early game. Turtle's going to sit towards the top lane, and it does not look like they're going to get the 2v2 matchup here.
Yeah. One of the nice deep rewards, though, that was placed there by Santorin was actually trying to stop Maokai from stacking saplings and taking the Raptor camp.
Oh.
Somewhat risky ward to get in there, but the fact that he has done so will deny balls a little bit.
We're talking about balls being on the Hecarim and being on something they can carry to the Maokai this time. Still do a sufficient amount of damage.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't get to play it that much, the Maokai that is, only 2 times in the semifinals, but throughout the ending of the regular season, the Maokai was the pick for Cloud9 to lock in with their very first choice. The fact that they were able to just kind of get it this time without having to put a huge priority on it, you know, first pick Gragas being over on the other side, is rather valuable. Lustboy trying to do some Nautilus things on Nami.
Still working with water.
Not the same.
Not a problem.
I think.
Just being smooth. I don't think he's going to get too far in this one. Just knowledge of what Cloud9 is doing and at what speed. Elimination's going to try to do a little bit of his own scouting here as he heads down towards the bottom side of the map. It looks like they are out already. He doesn't even get
You can tell these guys practiced a lot against each other because they got the same ideas with what to do in these lane swaps. Honestly, TSM wins out on that a little bit. Basically, Lemonation's invade was later, and even though he stole one tiny little raptor, the camp itself wasn't stopped. Whereas for Cloud9 here, they forewent doing the raptors and ran straight to the other side of their jungle. Therefore, it's actually the TSM duo jungle here of Darius and Santorin that are ahead on experience.
Scuttle, yep, given over to Meteos. Play that well. Looks like you might get a ward over the wall here, and yeah, they are going to quickly get this. Lemonation's ward towards Red, definitely giving them a little bit of help to make sure nobody else comes in. And 3 wards with the Scuttle Crab is all they need.
With a level 1 support too. So really low experience values here early from Cloud9. There will be more experience, substantially more experience on the side of TSM. And for a Dragon, they get first shot at ganking high here. Gragas Flash E is one of the most lethal ganking tools. Ooh! So that's one way to stop it.
Yeah.
Is if High... That's all credit to High there, actually, for avoiding that gank. Because Odd One is watching as well.
Oh, yeah.
But because he knows that the Gragas gank, early game, if he Flash E body slams you for the stun, it's almost a guaranteed death because Bjergsen would charm him for sure. And when Santorin was body slamming in, he wouldn't have been in range unless he flashed, but High respected it, flashed anyway, was able to get it alive. Hey!
1-2 miss there. Darius is going to be able to head a bit of a split in the uprights on that one, and TSM looks like they can get out safely. They have to be careful what's really happening here, though. Can they get out in time? They're still going to try to take down Darius. The Ignite is on. The Ignite is ticking. Is it too little? And he stays alive with the potion just chugged at the right time.
If not for the 3-man bubble from Lustboy, which he flashed in for, Darius was dead for sure. So Lustboy supporting everybody but Wild Turtle early on in this game.
God, Lustboy doesn't even need training wheels back to these champions. He's just straight off and running. No mistakes, all plays right out of the gate for him. A nice hit by Bjergsen. He needed that 5-4 in this lane, not too far behind, but he's been taking those corrosive charges a little too much, and High has that upper hand. 34-25 in the mid lane right now. So Turtle freezing away in this top lane, shouldn't really see any trouble for quite a amount of time in the game here. So he should be big for TSM come mid-late game.
And someone who is not very big right now for Cloud9 is actually Balls. Level 2 on Maokai. Everything has gone against his farming early on in the game, which typically does not work out for Cloud9 when they need him as an initiation threat. Think about the very early jungle. Lustboy pushed him off of the Raptor camp. He couldn't share that. The first experience Balls actually got was sharing the wolves on the other side of the jungle. Then he never even got lane experience because the dive was shut down. He never got kill or assist gold. And now he's set up in a lane against Lustboy and a level 5 Jinx. There is no way he gets meaningful farm in the next few minutes.
TSM getting everything to fall into place accordingly, and that ward early from Santorin towards Raptors was a pretty big catalyst to make all of this come to be. Cloud9 still clearing together towards this top side. Ball's trying to keep himself somewhere in experience range to be able to help in this game. Santorin now is by himself. It's definitely going to start to catapult him ahead a little bit more.
That first pick Gragas, and Santorin, he played it in all 3 of TSM's victories in the semifinals against Impulse and shut down Rush, who had been a jungler who was on complete fire for the last half of the split as well as the series against Gravity. Santorin exhibits a large amount of control on the map on Gragas, both from just his clearing but mainly his gank potential and his consistency as a player. All coming in huge on the jungle Gragas.
Yep. We really haven't seen too many woes with these teams. Santorin's kind of the biggest woe right as IEM hit before the season started was really all that TSM had to work on. People thought that he might kind of just be in the back pocket of Bjergsen all the time. Santorin won't be something TSM needs to grow, but I think he grew a little bit faster than everybody thought he could.
Yeah, an unfortunate tech issue. High spilled his drink on the keyboard, So,
Oh, jeez.
classic mistake for the home game.
Urgot is so sloppy.
Yeah.
God. Just get control of yourself.
Yeah, prompting this pause.
Not a problem.
That's unfortunate. Really.
At least it's not kind of like an emotional thing. You're just like, oh, man, now I'm really in for it. It's just kind of like, whoops, we're good.
It's actually surprising that this hasn't happened before. I mean, think of all the LCS games we've had.
Well, we took the banana away from Lemon Nation before anything could happen last time, so. See, he's still getting support.
Make sure everything still works. Maybe they'll get him a replacement keyboard. We shall see. But honestly...
Are getting a replacement, yes. But yeah, we were talking about Santorin and how he has been helping the team. But looking at these teams, two of the only teams who saw 0 subs or changes throughout the split. So it's kind of no real surprise that they are the top 2 fighting for the finals.
Yeah, Cloud9 no supports or subs in LCS play for 2 years now.
Yeah.
TSM, if they do a supporter substitution, it usually works out for them. Finding Santorin. And it wasn't always like this. Like this TSM team is actually somewhat battle-tested at this point.
Right.
Because if we do think back, not the IEM they won in Katowice, but the IEM they didn't win in San Jose before the LCS split happened, things weren't looking that great. Bjergsen was killed multiple times by Power of Evil.
Right, this new guy.
Bjergsen had lost it. They said Santorin was out-jungled. He wasn't going to be able to do anything. Then they come into the LCS season and they pick right up after. They win IEM Katowice against Team WA in the final.
To be honest, all of that did happen to now the second-place team in Europe. So.
Yeah, I know. And
Credit
Unicorns of Love proved to be pretty good.
Yeah, Unicorns of Love definitely came out strong. So they were showing what they had, and TSM just wasn't ready. But as we've said before, they do pride themselves on being able to fix these situations and come out on top.
Yeah, and now we come back
there we go.
into high. He has to lane against the MVP Bjergsen here. It's been a pretty poor split for Cloud9, all things considered. But again, they find themselves sitting in the final. We look back regular season, week 1 even. They were last place in the LCS. They're the only team to go 0-2 in week 1. Fighting back from that, they had to continually climb up the standings. They only got their bye in the last week of the regular season by beating the top 2 teams in the LCS consecutively. They got that seed. Then, in the semifinals, they were down 0-2. They were already thinking about how to pick up the pieces, how to recover this Cloud9 brand, how to reassert their dominance. But they actually haven't lost it yet. They've been closer than ever to looking mortal and not the dominant team in the North American LCS. And now they spill drinks on their keyboard.
Yep.
So
just right when they were on the cusp of reaching the pinnacle once again. It's different to look at, though. The way they surged through the split is almost scary if I were them in the first split. Hey, they beat it so well, you almost can't quantify how that was, why that was. Was it just because teams weren't ready? Were they always getting the better picks? Was it in Champion Select? What was that Pandora's box, and can you find it again? Because that is the real question, right? Where did that Cloud9 go? Or did everybody just get amped up and better because they were good and they raised the competition?
Trying to recapture the dominance of their 25-3 split they had when they entered the LCS. I don't know if we'll ever see another North American team as dominant as Cloud9 was. Because honestly, the scene has grown so much since then. We look at the successful brands in North America now, and it's the teams with the coaching staffs and the experience and the top talent they've been able to recruit. And that's what ends up in the finals here. Cloud9 with the experience, TSM with both. And now we're back in. High's replacement got his keyboard.
Yes, he did. I was always a big proponent of fresh blood in a scene, being able to do very well, wanting it more, going even harder. Not that it has fizzled out for these teams. The veteran status is now what brings them to this level and caliber of play. A lot has been dodged out by Fancy Feet High. Fancy Feet High. Fancy Feet High. Wave, just clear out. We might even get the rotate to bottom.
Yeah, Mita's going to try and pick up that.
Fancy Feet High.
Who is being more and more denied. Overall CS, 10 CS and level 4 on the Maokai. As the TSM vote is still 2-1, basically. And for good reason. TSM playing this early game quite well. Experience leads throughout. Even the First Blood gave him the gold lead. The Dragon was given up before that experience, for the most part. Now, BF Swords on as well, who have been farming at a pretty reasonable clip since they're not laning against anyone.
Safe days for them. Wild Turtle is happy to do that. And without Sneaky really being on that Lucian, we usually see him take a back seat as well. Looking at that lane now, a nice bit of trade damage going over to Lustboy, but they have all the mana in the world to stay in this lane, and with 30 seconds here, I'm sure one of them would love to get that damage trade in their favor to make Dragon a little bit easier. Rotation already towards the bottom side from Santorin, but he has warded out nicely by, I believe, Lemon Nation's work down there. Slowly coming in for the gank. Another spot out here. They've already got the pings. They are pretty much ready. Meteos' top lane, though, so they may still try to go for this bottom side, knowing the aggression is there and they could be safe for the dive.
Whoa, Dyrus, that was unnecessary, man. Dyrus blows his ultimate.
Maybe the length of the chase scared him too much?
Yeah, he's like, he's going to have backup if he's being this crazy.
You can't see high in mid lane.
Yeah.
Ari had moved away. Interesting. Something they may be able to use here. Good timing to happen at Dragon.
Because of the length of the steal, though, TSM able to steal the blue buff as well as prop up the Dragon take. So, while Dyrus' ultimate was unnecessary, Meteos' chase was even more unnecessary. I think Meteos was tunneling a little bit on giving Balls space to farm by getting Dyrus out of there, but it did cost them pretty heavily there, losing blue buff to the enemy mid laner as well as the Dragon.
Everything happened in a matter of seconds. You think it's going one way, then the other. TSM makes a good move for Dragon, and with the kill, now a Dragon in the lead. It's giving them 600 gold. Staying out of the way of Lemonation here. Both supports about to hit 6 in that bottom lane. Things could start to get crazy. Junglers are hovering that bottom side of the map and already have had a bit of hand in the first bloods we've seen, Santorin being in that mid lane.
And both Santorin and Meteos have game-changing ultimates on these junglers. Something they actually used awesomely in the semifinals. Santorin's Gragas salts were perfect, and when Meteos was on Gragas, he was landing great ultimates as well. We've seen Sejuani completely swing team fights before as well, and it will be incredibly important where those ultimates are used and if they can give each team an advantage, because right now, when TSM has that small lead, they're so good at stretching it out.
Yeah.
So unless Cloud9 makes a play with the Sejuani ultimate that is not counter-ganked by Santorin, they may die a slow death to Bjergsen's Arc.
That's one thing you get out of Bjergsen over and over again is a reassuring voice. If we keep doing that, it's something we'll be able to get. Just keep poking, keep ganking mid, and TSM is able to stay on that kind of course and not divert from it. Really is something that keeps them in the game and allows the lead to grow ever so slowly. Raptor buff taking out the bottom ward. It also delays Sneaky's back here, so they may be able to get a little bit of action on this turret.
Yeah, it may cost them a lot of this turret. The turret no longer has that extra resistance because we're 11 minutes into the game. And also, Lemonation had to back away early. All this pressure that Meteos is throwing up into the top lane is being really easily countered and outplayed by TSM.
We've seen games where Balls gets focused like this, pushed out, very under-leveled. Now he's got himself back up to leveled, but too many resources have been put back into that for it to work.
TSM outplayed slightly in the early game, which put Balls in a hole, and instead of just leaving Balls on his own, Cloud9 is putting so many resources into making sure he is a person in the late game, instead of just like a baby sapling tree. So with that,
not many rings.
Instead of TSM putting resources into keeping him down more and more, TSM just putting resources into giving everyone else an edge. By the time Balls matches up with Dyrus, which he kind of is now, maybe all the other lanes for TSM will be ahead, which is the TSM game plan. Get the other 4 people ahead, let Dyrus fend for himself and go even.
Yeah, always. TSM's plan, Dyrus fend for himself, indeed. And with these turrets dropping now, as we see the first one go down just a bit ago for Wild Turtle, Jinx can start approaching these turrets faster. It's going to be even a bigger surge in gold, and those turrets are going to fall down real quick. Bjergsen backing on a ward. I don't think Cloud9's going to be able to work off of any of this. They're all kind of in their own backing position themselves. So, didn't expect this slow first game. but both teams are definitely giving each other a lot of respect.
Yeah, they are definitely just taking it slow, not trying to take too many risks. These teams they're very different than Unicorns of Love and Fnatic, strategically, to put it in some finite terms. Honestly, these guys just don't fight as much as Fnatic and Unicorns of Love do. They have heavy vision games that evolve around each other. Cloud9 actually won a lot of games in the middle of the season with incredibly low kill counts. TSM has been known to play that way as well. When the team fights break out, they will be explosive, but don't expect them to just happen out of thin air.
Going to be difficult. Ball's just on charging up that Rod of Ages, but Catalyst giving him a little bit of HP. It looks like maybe needed in what could be this 4v2 fight in the top lane. 2 in the mid here, Bjergsen, or rather High and Elimination are hanging out there as Bjergsen started to rotate, but he pulls it back. They could still get balls off of this chase. Bubble hits, but it doesn't seem like they took the steps to actually take him down. Oh, hello.
Yeah. Cloud9's got to try and make a play here.
It's on to Dyrus. That ultimate is still up for him. He can get the wild growth on. I don't think it's going to be enough as a Winter's Bite and Conclusive Blows just equal out to the stun. And Dyrus goes down. So Cloud9 get a trade on the bottom side for a turret, but they've lost another one up top as well.
Good job right there for Cloud9 to get aggressive right as the turret was falling. Dyrus needed to fall away from that turret to not be at risk for that engage. But now that 2 big ultimates have been blown by Cloud9, TSM looking to maintain the pressure in the mid lane. Every time you put something into Dyrus, TSM will take from you something else.
Oh, always. And they take it quite textbook here in the mid. Another flash needed to be blown, this time on the side of Cloud9 as the 3rd outer turret falls. That was quite quick once they got the bottom one. And that's going to put quite a bit of money over onto Bjergsen and Wild Turtle. Both of them has 1,000, and Santorin just hit that as well. So burning a hole in their pockets, they decide to stay on the map for a little bit longer, get the vision they need to make sure Dragon is all covered.
Yeah. Nice play overall there by TSM. Not being dissuaded by Meteos' Sejuani ultimate because they knew there wasn't follow-up there.
Right.
High still stacking up. Just got his Manamune. Merman is going to be a good distance away. Let's double check that. It's at 391 of 750, so it's not stacking incredibly quickly.
Right.
Rod of Ages still not completed on Balls' Maokai. Not going for the Righteous Glory, so trying to get a little bit more damage in
good
there.
Thing you just got that done.
Relying on the Sejuani ultimate instead of the Righteous Glory initiation. Maybe a Righteous Glory from Lemonation. Cloud9 is trying to bide their time, but they're honestly in catch-up mode. They have been for a while, and it's very hard to catch up to a team like TSM who is so apt at trading and trading successfully.
Yeah, they'll play around you. They know exactly what to do to make sure they get it their way. Second Dragon is going to be just that as Cloud9 forced to answer towards the top lane. Team Solo mid fans liking the objective pressure that TSM is given right now, and it looks like High could be caught in the mid lane. They catch him sleeping.
And this is exactly what we were talking about. Cloud9 is pushing the bottom lane. They leave an Urgot to stay in the mid lane. He can't clear a wave, so he's just a victim to any skill shots that actually land from TSM. They get another turret. They may get another interior turret. And it is all about the trading right now, but every trade is in the favor of TSM.
Bjergsen plays Urgot a lot himself and fared well against High in the mid lane. 30 CS up as both second tiers are being pushed on either side. Cloud9 is kind of squeezing these, I wouldn't say advantages, but ways to cling back into this game just as TSM gets all of their advantages. Small things towards Cloud9, big steps for TSM.
And specifically because of the style that TSM likes to play, maintaining vision control of the enemy jungle, rushing at people, and getting picks with Bjergsen's Zari. That's the style they need to do. And with 5 turrets killed from TSM and even 3 from Cloud9, the map is opened up substantially, which leaves many more dangerous corridors to walk down for Cloud9 and only increases the risk of Bjergsen being able to punish them for Ahri. In an ideal game, team comp versus team comp, the turrets aren't being traded if you're Cloud9. They want it to be a condensed game, a smaller game, so the tanks can actually find team fights again and again over knowable objectives. But when the map is this open, it actually favors TSM, which is why they've been so willing to trade these turrets.
Just able to find Cloud9 at any chance. Ward's already in the bottom side, so they know Maokai will be teleporting into this next fight. They could once again zero somebody out before any of that happens. But they're not moving without safety. Always making sure wards are cleared here. Making sure they have the advantage on that side of the map. Dyrus finishes up Athene's quite a bit ago. Trying to be still useful in this game after getting pushed around quite a bit. Good stuff. Still, that first kill onto Bjergsen is something that Santorin focused. Team Solo Mid wanted to make sure that High was not a factor, and Bjergsen had an edge.
Santorin traded flashes with High early on in the laning phase.
Right.
They got the return gank before High's flash was up, about 30 seconds before his flash was up. So
that's very
they were
true.
definitely keeping timers on that flash from High in the mid lane. And those are the only deaths of Cloud9 this entire game. They have been trying to avoid the pick potential of TSM, but in doing so have taken some unfavorable trades, which now make it harder and harder to avoid the catching, roaming team of Team Solo Mid.
Hit the shot caller and hopefully silence him as well in the process. Towards the top lane, the zap will not make it across, but Vision allows them to know they can go for the Gragas cast. That's onto balls now. A little bit too much defense for them to break through those tanks, and quite a few ultimates used by TSM there.
What an awesome matchup of junglers right there. Santorin landing a great ultimate on balls, but then because Meteos landed his ultimate on Sejuani, he neutralized him. Two good junglers there making some nice plays.
Fan zone. Very sunny outside, it seems. Enjoying the matchup. A little bit of heat out there as TSM putting the heat on Cloud9. 20 minutes into this matchup, already approaching the last second-tier turret. A little bit of a TP coming in, but that was also seen. Dyrus says, I am right on your heels. Who needs the wild growth? I got speed. I can give it to you. And it looks like they want a bit of the fight. Knowing Lemonation's Glacial Fissure's coming out, they back out. They disengage for a second, and both teams now are kind of creating a line of scrimmage to say, who's next?
They kind of realized they were out of ultimates when that fight started. Neither the Sejuani or the Gragas could add to that one. And Ball's also TP'd in without home guard, so neither team wanting to fully commit to a fight there. And they end up just delaying each other.
A lot of respect. Bottom wave needs to be cleared out here for Cloud9, so this actually works out nicely for them that they can, relieve a little bit of that pressure and start to get some breathing room. Baron is up. We've seen some very, very, very early Barons here throughout the finals, the playout, rather, through the final games, I should say, of third, fourth place yesterday in the semifinals. Doesn't seem like anybody's too worried about it here. Scuttle Crab averting from Dyrus. Can't get it.
Sneaky farming pretty well. Matching Wild Turtle. CS for CS, but unfortunately Wild Turtle's got that kill on him, so a 300 gold edge. Both these 80 carries, the main damage dealers for their teams throughout the year, if we look at damage dealt to champions as well as kills. Wild Turtle had more kills, deaths, and assists than Sneaky during the regular season. Every category just plays crazy. Whereas Sneaky had a higher KDA and better CS numbers. Honestly, we're kind of seeing something similar in this match, but as much as we talk about Bjergsen and High, this game is just as much about Sneaky and Wild Turtle. These guys have both stepped up in really big ways this year. Probably the two best 80 carries in North America now, going head-to-head in this classic TSM versus Cloud9 matchup.
Yep. Saw him quite a bit on different 80 carries,
spot.
but now James what a hit from the ultimate from Meteos! TSM is locked up and now retreating as Cloud9 is trying to get the cavalry to approach on this, and they cannot get through the choke point as TSM made their way out very fast after losing Bjergsen.
TSM is lucky to only lose one player after that initiation. Cloud9 going to try and push down this mid turret as fast as possible because there's a dragon objective up as well.
They have a very small minion wave, but it doesn't look like it's going to matter. They have enough damage. They should be able to get Dragon here in a very big move. Completely evens out this game. Next few turrets are going to be really big.
The fact that Cloud9 could posture outside of the Dragon with that many missing turrets, they're missing 4 turrets on the Dragon side of the map that is all danger walking through. But that specific corridor is actually where they want to catch a fight. TSM lost a fight in this spot to Gravity during the regular season against an Urgot.
Wow.
4-man Sejuani ultimate. Giant Sivir damage coming in as well. High is not even involved in that fight. I think that's the main reason you only saw 1 casualty, because no one else could be swapped back into the team for additional kills. But it puts Cloud9 back in position in this game, and critically gives them some time to set up defensive wards.
It's just a whole lot of high-level play coming out of that. Cloud9 got the engage they wanted, which they'll probably never get again. Most teams would have completely died in that situation, which TSM didn't actually die. They disengaged. These guys are on point on both sides. Cloud9 somehow needs to find that one more time.
A hole in TSM's vision control. They have a double sight stone and 2 upgraded yellow trinkets. Previously, Cloud9 was the team that did the double yellow trinkets because Meteos would like to put more of his gold into combat items and they'd get less vision denial, more overall vision. TSM should have more overall vision right now because of the double sight stone.
They had like 4 wards on that spot. 1 ward got them out there.
4 people on this team, aside from Wild Turtle, can keep 3 wards out on a map indefinitely. And they didn't have the wards there for the Cloud9 fight. Just a lapse in vision control there from TSM, costing the Dragon.
Taking their time for right now, that is for sure. The gold is even right across the board with the Dragons. And kills! Thought Santorin was going to be stepping a little too close, but he's able to suck in his gut there and get out of the way of the Winter's Bite from Elimination. Cloud9 is now, you can see, kind of on the forefront here. They want to start the engages. They're not afraid anymore. The team has grouped in mid, and they're looking for Team Solo Mid to make another mistake.
Yeah. Well, what's happened now is Cloud9 has successfully denied a lot of the vision. Good pink wards, good sweeping, 1 upgraded sweeper, 2 normal sweepers for Cloud9. But if we look at where TSM is going, they don't have good vision control. That's why they're having Santorin run in as the tanky Gragas with a Lulu to shield him and try and get these wards. Cloud9 only wants to catch them. It's a big game of give and take here. TSM has already traded the majority of the objectives, so there's not much more trading they can do now that they've lost vision control.
Right. You saw him, Santorin, do it once again there. Almost put them in a scary position. See Whimsy and other speed-ups being used, saying, shouldn't be here. Once again, Cloud9 approaches. These guys are just lining up for the fights. Good thing they cannot see Sneaky right now over at red. I'm pretty sure that would be a nice engage for Team Solo Mid to hit on. And they stave this one off.
The thing is, it's very tricky for TSM to find an initiation without vision control. If they're just walking straight up to Cloud9, they can't really get through the tank lines. They need to pick off one person at a time. What a bold Baron call here by Cloud9. I'd expect them to peel for a fight, but we haven't seen them find fights recently. We'll see here. Do they burn Sivir all?
Heismer Amana just popped through here. Big boosted damage for Urgot coming into this. Can they get it on the choppers without hitting? Righteous Glory doesn't really get him there. Meteor with a 5-man Sejuani ultimate. If TSM can make it through this, they got it. But Cloud9 is locking them down. Bjergsen on the outside. He gets swapped in with the position reverser. How is TSM still alive in this one? They are doing everything they can, but Cloud9 closes the door on that fight.
A 5-man Sejuani ultimate. Have you ever seen a better Sejuani ultimate in competitive play? He did the ult flash as well to make it point blank and faster. Beautiful initiation there by Cloud9, using their movement speed, catching everyone, and then running them down for the rest of the team fight.
Absolutely incredible plays here coming out of Meteos. Struggling in the top lane to keep balls in the game and then taking control of the mid game by himself there with 2 huge ultimates. One from the blue and now that second one. Let's see it again.
Game-changing plays right there. They walk around the chompers. Watch this. Ooh. Okay, so what he did is he actually flash Q'd to get in point blank range and then just hit his ultimate. So he didn't actually instant cast the Sejuani ultimate, but the effect was the same because he was right next to TSM when it landed. The explosion radius stuns 5. At that point, Sneaky was able to get into the brunt of the TSM team without them getting protected, while Turtle did not do enough damage. Therefore, Sivir ran him down, and my goodness, that initiation from Cloud9 was legendary.
Said it earlier, Jat. 2 words. Game-changing. These junglers have game-changing ultimates, and I think we just saw that happen for Meteos.
I can't believe he hit all 5 people. Like, TSM has been disengaging so well this entire game, and Meteos has landed one ult on 4 and another ult on 5. TSM does need to spread out a little bit. I think that's one thing we've learned here. Now with Baron Cloud9 trying to siege, it's going to be tough.
It is going to be very tough for TSM now to reassess how to get back into this one. They still have a bit of vision on their side of the map, but these fights are happening right out in the open. And Cloud9 is using their fright power, prowess in this tank line to just get the fights done. A huge gold lead now of 4,000 after a neck-and-neck game for the first 25 minutes. Did not think that was going to be the way the game changed, that's for sure. What an incredible way for Cloud9 to start things off here in game 1.
Down a ton of turrets as well, and it's not over yet because TSM can still catch out individual members of Cloud9, and the only fights they've lost have been off of 4 to 5 people getting caught in the Sejuani ultimate.
I think Medio saw him there.
Yeah.
He definitely had sight.
TSM has control over this dragon, though, because of poor back timings by Cloud9. They end up getting this 3rd dragon.
I feel like that was to the wayside for Cloud9, but they still have to be careful as that creeps up towards 5. Aspect of the dragon is still something that can close the door right back on you. Cloud9 would not be feeling too good. We have a long series here. We are only in game 1, and 30 minutes is what we were kind of seeing as a lot of these games end yesterday, back and forth, and these guys are going to take each other to the late game. 3 kills for Sneaky now as he is really becoming a big factor over on the side of Cloud9. Wild Turtle's picked himself up a few as well.
Wild Turtle going for the higher damage build with Phantom Dancer, but Sneaky completing his 3rd item faster. They also catch TSM out of wits.
Wow.
And they push straight down. That's an inhibitor gone, most likely. Wow.
A lot of respect and a little bit out of position for TSM on that play.
Yeah, I think TSM was willing to concede a bottom turret and were just a little bit out of sorts with where they're going to be going.
Yeah.
They actually have a lot of wards sprinkled around the dragon area / that side of the map, so it is a little bit inexcusable that TSM gives up that turret so uncontestedly. But with that inhibitor down, that is mission successful for Cloud9 with the Baron buff. They can now use that pressure of super minions the next time a major objective comes up, like when the Baron respawns.
What kind of items everybody's getting in their inventories. Definitely synergizing with the team is kind of the name of the game here. Lockets, Righteous Glory coming out, something that can also complement the champions on your team. It's been the focus as well for both. Lustboy has focused the Mikhails as well to get that position reverser off of whoever Kai is going to be targeting.
It's also to just stop the Sejuani ultimate.
Yeah, that too.
The one.
Hopefully you're not all 5 in at that time.
Please no.
So we almost have the Zanyas onto Bjergsen as well, kind of just behind on core items that would make these fights a lot easier for themselves. Dyrus had that needlessly large rod, which he kind of passed up the Lucidity boots to get, but has finished those now. Turtle.
Uh-oh.
Put the shell on. This could be bad. This would be great for Balls as well. He needs to get something to get back into this game. He's been benefiting from everybody else. Oh, they're going to give it the high. Assist money is still good money.
Yeah, this is a situation where TSM couldn't trade something back, so they have clearly lost control of this game. When Wild Turtle was out too far trying to farm that wave. There's a lot that TSM has lost here, all because of Meteos' ultimates. And we kind of knew when Meteos picked this Ahri that for TSM to win this game, he was going to have to win lane, transition that advantage to other lanes, and then use vision control to continually catch off Cloud9. The first thing happened. He won the lane with the Ahri. As far as transitioning to other lanes, not really, because Cloud9 was trading objectives, which would have set up the 3rd play from TSM, which is starve the enemy out of vision control, get picks, use those picks to catapult them into objectives. But as TSM was going for those picks, miraculously, Cloud9 worked around TSM's vision net. Meteos landed several good ultimates, and now the vision net is gone. So in full 5v5 team fights, TSM, unless they play miraculously and Cloud9 misses some big ultimates, TSM is destroyed in those full 5-on-5s. Therefore, they've kind of lost their main win condition and are now relying on Cloud9 to make a mistake.
That early game of Sejuani in the top lane was what TSM worked off of. They dropped all 3 outer turrets immediately. But like you said, no roaming. I think Bjergsen's and the team's focus was to take down High too much. Those 2 kills kept him to the 2nd tier turret, which easily becomes roam, right? After that first tier is down, you get the inner wards, and you're all over the side lanes.
High is down 80 CS to Bjergsen. I mean, we can see that they shut down his Urgot, but without the focus, they're not dealing with other stuff. TSM scattering this time. No 5-man Sejuls today.
The pop on Santorin, that's his flash. Explosive cast goes out to try and save his life. It's a nice set of chompers from Turtle. The tsunami as well from Lustboy coming through, and they may be able to just retreat into the base. That would be the best of the situation for them right now. On to Lemon Nation. That's going to be a lot to take him down. Cloud9's not able to get anything out of this as they're kind of floundering around in mid right now.
They were trying to take the minions. Lemon Nation did not get The backup of his team right there. Re-engage.
Going out of Lustboy. That's the blade. Almost the boomerang coming in from Sneaky. One more shot. He is able to get Lustboy. Turtle falls. And Cloud9, they don't back up. They go right through the front door. And the Super Minion could make this the game for them.
High held on to his position reverser for so long. He waited for Bjergsen to try and make a play. They slowed down Wild Turtle Balls with the reinitiation. That's why they kept the Maokai in the game. Cloud9 takes game 1.
What a swap from a great early game from Team Solo Mid to come at 33 minutes. Cloud9 turns the game on its head and takes down TSM for game 1.
Overall by Cloud9. Really great job by Cloud9. They're fighting back from some early lane deficits. Game 1 victory.
It did not knock them down mentally at all throughout the game. And I was surprised to see that from High. They hit him immediately. He has always had a lot of pressure on him, and he probably knew coming into this game it was going to be even tougher, but he didn't mind being down 30-some CS, dying twice in the mid lane, and he knew he was focused. Right after his flash was down, he got hit again. So it was going to be rough for him.
One thing we do know, though, is these teams are experienced enough that they're not going to tilt after a few deaths. They know that these games and these series
That's the one thing we mentioned.
are very long.
No tilting.
Right, TSM losing game 1 of a series is nothing new.
Right.
We'll see how they adapt for game 2. Looking at this game, though, Meteos was so good. Like, those were
009.
amazing Sejuani ultimates. One over the wall, hits 4, but the 5-man that he flash queued in for that completely turned the game around.
Did we actually not even see a good one that game? He literally hit everything at least 2 or 3.
He saved them. I mean, he only used them a couple of times.
Right.
And every time they hit many people and turn fights completely around. I mean, that's how you do it.
Strong stuff there. We have seen from Team Solo Mid when they lost their game with the Urgot pick, they went back to it. So I like that about them. Not afraid. Maybe we'll see this Ahri pickup composition that they had again. Still got a big series to go. Right now, however, Cloud9 getting game 1. We're going to send it out to our analysts to break down Cloud9's victory.
Thank you, Riv, out here after that game 1 pickup there for Cloud9. But where I want to start is actually with TSM, because I want to go with what their game plan was, which looked really solid to start out. They put a lot of focus mid to sway that matchup in the mid lane that a lot of people were saying this series would hinge on.
Yeah, and honestly, TSM did a good job of that. Hey, look, a very early gank, the trio lane of Dyrus and Santorin and Lustboy, they roam mid, they trade flash for flash, they get down to bot lane in time to absorb the wave, like very smart things by these guys. And of course, as the casters mentioned, they come back in time before the flash is back up. First blood on Urgot, push the top lane turret down. And this comp works so well off of snowballing the 2 big TSM members. Bjergsen gets ahead. Wild Turtle gets a strong early game champion who can knock down turrets. And if you siege up on a turret, you have to respect Charm at all times, you have to respect Bubble at all times, and Jinx does all the heavy lifting on turret kills, and all these things work very well for TSM.
Yeah, and you have to keep that Urgot down too, because it's a quadra tank composition from Cloud9. They banned out the Janna and went for hard engage, so keeping that Urgot down is imperative, because if that Urgot gets up, he rushes the Frozen Heart, and it keeps Wild Turtle's damage down too.
Yeah, and what was very interesting, you talk about the bans coming out here. There's actually a couple of points I noticed Lustboy not used to playing Nami in this kind of a matchup, right? Hard engaged team versus disengaged team. The big climactic Baron fight, there was an opening to tidal wave the team and disengage. When they put the chompers down, the team goes around it, they're funneling through a very small choke. That tidal wave stops the team fight guaranteed. But it doesn't come out because he's not used to the matchup. He's not used to having to tidal wave early to disengage. And so, right, the rest of Cena actually gets in on that fight. Like, those are things that are really important where TSM's not ready for this level of pressure on their compositions.
Yeah, continuing down the line of the early game for TSM, too, we have to look at the fact that their pressure in lanes was pretty phenomenal, right?
Yes.
They were taking things off of Dyrus getting camped, which is great. If you're trading one death for a turret every time, fantastic. And their wave manipulation was actually pretty phenomenal in the early parts of the game. So takeaways here for TSM, fantastic there. I want to look at how it fell apart, though.
Yes. Stop grouping up against the teamfight comp, because that comp only has Sivir for wave clear and a little bit of Maokai. You have multiple wave clear champions, Gragas, Lulu, Jinx, Ahri, All 4 champions that can like range wave clear very effectively. Split push, don't let that composition group up because they work best when they group up. If you group up against a quadra tank comp that has a Maokai in it too, he just reduces everybody's damage taken, and it's impossible to knock them down. They just barrel and face roll that team fight. So stop grouping up, keep pushing objectives and forcing things, and they had lapses in vision, and that was the big thing too, is they should have so much vision that they can go between lanes. They lost that vision, and when you lose vision against a hard engage comp, they can camp an objective, and you have to face check him, and they get to force the fight.
But that's the big difficulty here, is even if Bjergsen's off on the side split pushing, obviously it can't be Jinx split pushing, no escapes, right? That's the obvious choice here. Even if Bjergsen's the one split pushing because he's actually got pressure in the lane, problem is you've got 4 tanks. You've got a Sivir and an Urgot and a Maokai and a whole bunch of freaking dive. Like, good luck 4v5ing under turret. You put the Braum shield up and your wave clear's gone. Like, the actual Braum pickup prevents a lot of choices that TSM could have made because they can no longer wave clear as long as he can survive 3 Jinx rockets, and then you just hard dive them into the turret. Bjergsen can't show up, and if Lulu is the one split pushing on the side, well, C9 put a whole bunch of pressure in getting balls ahead of Dyrus in that top lane. Now that pressure bought TSM 3 turrets. It bought them an extra dragon as well. It almost lost C9 the game, but because they didn't lose the game, and Maokai was doing well and went Rod of Ages because then he has wave clear and kill pressure in this matchup instead of Righteous Glory for the team fight because they've got Sivir anyway. A lot of these things just click together, and suddenly C9 gets to stifle all the options.
But that's the thing is you don't 4-1, you 1-3-1, or you 2-2-1 and leave the self-sufficient Ahri by herself.
And even still, though, it just becomes difficult. And I'm not saying it's necessarily
difficult.
wrong,
You have to
but it's
correctly.
Can Ahri outrace Sivir when the team fight does happen into your turret? Because the 5v3 will kill your team under the turret and will kill your turret afterwards. And so you have a very short clock to where if before C9 dives, we better get something to happen.
Yeah,
and that
C9 is forced
difficult to do.
All right, well, things TSM could have done differently. Now let's transition over to Cloud9's side. And you had mentioned the vision play and forcing TSM into a scenario in which they had to come into an objective not knowing what they were walking into, setting up that team fight pretty well. I do want to bring up our first replay, and this is blowing up on Twitter right now. Hashtag LCS big plays here.
Oh, yeah.
26 minutes into the game, ends up being a 4-for-1 plus a Baron. Zyrene, take it away.
They get the vision here, and then they try to disengage, but Meteos, he flashes forward with the Q, and he basically animation cancels his ultimate. You have no reaction time at point blank with that going on. So that's what sets it up. And it hits all 5 members of TSM because they cluster against this team composition. The Righteous Glory is actually popped a little early, and then the Sivir ultimate, it's like, oh, do we want to go? They have to walk around Flame Choppers, and that's where you Tidal Wave, is across that. But you see, Braum actually doesn't even get to Unbreakable because he gets Q'd. So it would have been a perfect Tidal Wave disengage that would have allowed them to get out of the Meteos ultimate in time to actually react to this team fight and kite backwards. But at this point in the game, Wild Turtle doesn't have the damage, and the Glacial Fissure comes across him, so he's not able to reposition, and Sneaky just gets free pop shots on him at that point.
Yeah, Sivir's actually really good in AoE comps like this. It's very hard to deal a lot of damage as an AD carry like Sivir. I usually call her in cast a low damage AD carry for the utility because your range is low, you're often under threat, kiting's pretty hard on her, she doesn't always run very fast. But if your team has all the offensive tools, Ricochet and Boomerang Blade are 2 of the best AD carry steroids in the game. You're going to do actually more damage than Jinx Rockets will in a fight this grouped up and this safe for Sivir. Sneaky, unsurprisingly, highest damage dealt champions in the game in that one because it's a field day for Sivir to kill everyone.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody on your team is a tank, and they're trying to get through that front line to you. And the fact that it's a Braum kind of compensates for the Sivir range disadvantage because he can just absorb and allow her to stand right behind him.
So I have to say, at the end of this game, my big takeaways are that I loved C9's composition. I love the way they built it and the way they intended to play it. What worries me, though, is the fact that they did get behind early. And without that incredible 5-man ult there engaged around the Baron Pit, they may not have been able to get back into it because TSM was starting to pick up steam. We saw them, as you mentioned, rotate in order to manipulate waves, rotate, take them down quickly, and not allow for the wave clear of Cloud9 to come in because all they have was a Sivir, and unless the Sivir rotates between turrets, they're not going to wave clear at all.
Yeah, but TSM kind of dropped the ball there with vision control in the jungle and having to reestablish it. Bjergsen got picked off once, and it was like, okay, they have to back off, then they have to come back in and try to reestablish vision. But C9 was just camping brush, waiting for them to come in. And that's the kind of thing that you can't stop the momentum on that team. It's very tempo-based, and once you get off beat, you can't get back in it.
Yeah, I wanted to see a bit more from TSM in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Bjergsen got ahead. He had mid pushed in at all times. And when you have mid pushed in, you can use mid to get vision control, right? He and Santorin can go off. Like, you saw him steal a blue buff early on in the game. You can see him go and ward up the jungle. And they can use this to track Meteos. And they saw Meteos go top lane a lot, and so they pressured bot lane. But they could have pressured bot lane more by tracking Meteos a little bit more here. Crushing the Sivir under her turret, you know, or at least forcing her off sooner. C9 quickly swapped their lanes around. They sent Sivir top lane after a while, but using the Ahri a bit more in the early parts of the game, make a couple more plays, and then C9 can't get into the rotation game.
Cloud9 definitely out for blood here in the first game. They want their title back. We are only just warming up, though. When we come back, Cloud9 and TSM will return to the stage for Game 2 of our championship finals. And as we head to break, we're going to be looking back at the championship battles of yesteryear. We start
the game. TSM goes the full 5 and takes down Cloud9 to be the the 2014 North American champions.
It was really solid there. It's a lot about just cleaning up their play, right? Small, like miss gank here, maybe a lack of vision there, giving up a dragon where they maybe shouldn't have. It's minor things that they're going to look to improve, but overall, I would say, put the pressure on TSM.
Yeah, they did put pressure on the top lane in Dyrus, but he kind of just absorbs everything. He's like a sponge that doesn't care about what ganks come at him. He just dissipates all of it. And the TSM was able to capitalize off of that. So Cloud9 gave up early leads, which is very punishable. They were playing for the late game, but it's something where you want to clean that up so you aren't as exploitable in the late game, because that could be a TSM's avenue in.
All right, and then for TSM, Freak, they might have to team fight, right? In terms of adapting, when you look against Cloud9, you look what just beat you. If you're going to run into that every game, Ari Jinx maybe isn't going to do it for you.
Sure. I mean, team fight compositions can be very good, and TSM could make the adaptation, and they would be on a more level playing field in a 5-on-5. But, I mean, Solar Mid, they spent a lot of effort on the mid lane. They picked a single-target assassin, essentially an Ari, and relying on Bjergsen to make plays. He didn't transition much of that out of lane, though. And if Bjergsen could step up a little bit more, then that whole style is going to be just fine. TSM as a team played very well. They saw a field gank top, they took a dragon. They saw another field gank top, they took a turret. All of TSM's playing well, Dyrus playing well, but if they're going to put all the emphasis on Bjergsen, he has to do something with that emphasis.
Yeah, and you could see from C9's bans that they were like, Janna, get that out of the picture, no disengage allowed. So they are probably, if that comes through again, TSM need to adapt in champion select to say, we can't play disengage. We have to either team fight them back or pick a cog bomb.
All right, looking for a little bit more out of our MVP for this split as we send it over to our casters. One strategy that Cloud9 was trying in Game 1 was to camp Dyrus, as Irene mentioned, but High warns the tactic comes with its own dangers.
If you are committing resources to camp Dyrus top, you have to make sure you're not losing things elsewhere. Otherwise, it's very rough for you to do. So when teams try to camp Dyrus and they don't do it properly, they lose. They camp Dyrus, Dyrus might be 0-5, but why does that matter? Bjergsen's like 3-0, Turtle's like 4-0. And when their mid laner and AD carrier are that strong, you're going to lose a game regardless how behind their top laner is. All you have to do is either be a meat shield and take some damage or provide some utility. And that's not too hard for a top laner to do.
Says the mid laner. It's always easy to talk about somebody else's position.
Yeah, it's what TSM does, though. And in that game, Cloud9 actually was in danger of having the same thing happen to them. And interestingly enough, they didn't leave Balls completely on his own. They put a lot of resources into having him as a tank initiator. And at the end of the day, thanks to Meteos, it did work out.
Thanks to Meteos, indeed. Some crazy ultimates coming out of that Sejuani. Guys, you should not be yawning just yet. Meteos and Lustboy giving out some good ones there. We are going into Game 2, so they better be ready and raring to go for the long haul here. Thresh to start off being banned. Lustboy, he's not going to get through clean on these pick ban phases.
Yeah, so much of TSM's ability to start fights off of vision control advantages comes from Lustboy's Thresh. It can either chain with the other things TSM is bringing, like an Ari. Likewise, the disengage if TSM was caught in a bad situation. You could say, because Lustboy was good on Nami, that the support bans didn't go that far for Cloud9 last game. But if you look at it in the other context of what Thresh and Janna give to TSM in that game strategy sense, they can be good bans.
Oh, so the Urgot once again with the Thresh and the Janna is going to be taken out of this one, this time from Cloud9. That was High's pickup last time. He does not want to face Bjergsen on that. Very interesting ban so far. I do like that point, though, that kind of Lustboy gets through with whatever he needs, but they are still banning out Lemon's Nautilus. I thought that's something that would just kind of go through for him.
Good chance we'll end up seeing the Nami again.
Yeah, absolutely.
This time, though, Cloud9 first picks the Gragas for themselves, which Meteos had those game-changing ultimates on Sejuani, but at the same time, it kind of proves that they either value Gragas over Sejuani, or they feel like Santorin is so much better of a Gragas than Sejuani that is the important pick here.
Well, we'll get an idea of what Team Silmid prioritizes with these first two. Santorin on your screen. Looks like he may pick up Braum for Lustboy.
They're just going to trade team comps, Riv. Easy.
Pretty much. Definitely taking their time, that's for sure. Knowing that game 1 went away, being 2 down if they aren't able to pick this one up just puts on so much more pressure here. These teams said, while they are friends coming into this game, the rivalry makes it business. They definitely want to get the win at the end of the day, obviously. Sejuani could be that pickup, but they flip it real quick. And I was thinking with that Janna ban, Kennen may be able to get into the fight, but they still keep thinking and messing with me. It's going to be the Sion pickup as well as the Sedge.
The Kennen would have been interesting. Maybe we would have seen it as support. It's something they could be considering.
Right.
However, Dyrus on Sion, very effective. Sejuani is also a safe pick for them to do this early. TSM, as the red side team that typically wants to counter pick, goes with 2 of the safest picks they could early on and does prep them for a very tanky team early on. More team fight focused than last game.
What is in the champion pools of Cloud9 now? High still has quite a few things that he can put on the board. Been thinking a little bit. We were talking earlier, where's the Kassadin for these guys? Haven't seen it, but have seen a little bit of Kassadin play from other regions, as well as the North American solo queues. Corki gets picked up. I thought Wild Turtle was going to be able to grab that, so that might be a nice takeaway that Cloud9 just got with that, as well as a great pickup for High.
Nice flex pick there. They could still get it on Sneaky, but with the Urgot ban, it's very likely we see that in the mid lane. Knowing Bjergsen is going to be able to counterpick anyway, they also lock it in early. They also make sure they just get the Maokai again, trying to give away as little as possible. We know these teams' champion pools for the most part, so at this point it's about not giving away what your team comp is going away for as quickly as possible.
I was talking to Apollo yesterday after their games, and when they chose the Corki and he went AP, they're like, well, we planned for it to be AD, but I guess he just went AP. So it's interesting to see how that can kind of switch mid-game. Obviously, High knows what he probably wants to do going into this one with how the team has been rounded out. Sivir may also get some more action in here. Would be great for the tank comp. It's something that really escalated Cloud9's composition last game.
Sivir is huge when there are so many tanks. Oh, are they going to do Kennen Callista? All right.
Yes!
This is something we've seen a lot of over in the LPL.
Oh.
It is a support Kennen, but with Callista, it is just such a ridiculous enabler because you were throwing a Kennen into the enemy team.
So I thought it was actually going to be Sneaky and Lemon, to be honest. And in the end,
yeah, me too.
I am very surprised that it is picked up by Wild Turtle and Lustboy here.
A lot of supports in the LCK as well as the LPL have been picking up Kennen. I like it. I mean, they were daring TSM to do so with the double support ban and 3 overall support bans in this series.
And how much have they played against this in their scrims against each other? It definitely seems to have called the audible for the last few picks that Cloud9 is going to be putting onto their roster. Sneaky and Lemonation obviously looking for the AD carry support. Yes, they are. It's the Lucian Morgana, meaning that is High's Corki. And this is a pretty nice composition for Cloud9.
Yeah, they need a little bit of black shielding if they're going to be facing up against all these crowd control shots. So the Morg is a very safe pick. Lucian as well, an elusive AD carry, Sneaky. I'd say it's one of his best champions, especially because he goes off on it from time to time.
Right, he changes roles so well. Last game, that Sivir utility provide. This time, he can provide for himself. Get that bully laning phase going, which him and Lemon love to play. Definitely taking their time here. Global pressure, could it be coming in? Little shout out there to Power of Evil on Unicorns of Love, who just played Varus at the mid lane to quite a good extent. It was pretty sweet to see.
Mid lane Varus, man.
Power of Evil. The power of...
Speaking of Power of Evil.
Speaking of Power of Evil, looks like we're going to actually get a Kog'Maw in the mid lane coming for Bjergsen on this one. A very interesting team comp that Team Solo Mid has gotten together here for Game 2.
AP Kog'Maw.
It is, yep, checking the masteries right now.
Lethal. But once he gets that Luden's Echo going. I really want to see how Bjergsen plays this one. It's, again, forcing Cloud9 to initiate on them. AP Kog'Maw has some of the most punishing poke damage of any champion in the history of League of Legends once he gets going. Honestly, it is ridiculous barrage when you get the max range, level 16 Kog'Maw coming in. So, TSM now, breaking out some new picks in a lot of roles here. Kog'Maw mid lane, Kennen support with the Callista combo. Cloud9 with much more standard stuff against it.
Standard indeed. Game 1 was pretty standard for them, and they will kind of follow through with the same coming into Game 2. But Team Solo Mid feels that they need to change things up drastically. We heard about them wanting to kind of create variation in their play, and with that in the season, they picked a Cassiopeia, right? And that's the way they did it. This time, a little more extensive with their picks.
Yeah, this is not the type of champion from Bjergsen that's going to solo kill his lane opponent and then go assassinate the NP80 carry. This is a guy who has to sit back in team fights, have plays happen around him, and then deal a lot of damage. It's something TSM hasn't shown the most success with in the past, but they break it out now.
Well, the champs are locked in, as you saw, so head over to Twitter and update your series predictions. Tweet at LOL Esports. Use either the hashtag C9win or hashtag TSMwin, and we will calculate those, as always, throughout the game. The lights have been dimmed as we approach the Game 2. And it is going to be a grand one. Already Cloud9 up 1 game, putting the pressure on a Team Solo Mid as we enter into the finals. Best of 5, it's Game 2. C9 is putting on the pressure.
TSM does respond to pressure quite well, though. Last year in the Summer Split Finals, Cloud9 took the first game. TSM still took the series. Even against Team Impulse last week, TSM lost the first game and then won the next 3. It's actually almost becoming expected for TSM to lose the first game of a series and then win the next 3.
Yep.
Very important momentum type game here.
So what you're saying is all according to plan.
All according to plan. It's a terrible plan to lose the first game, in my opinion. But it's obviously not that simple.
TPA did it.
Yeah.
They got Worlds. We'll see if these guys can take that road this year. Right now, they have this stepping stone to go over and fighting once again for the title of the North American champion. Right now, TSM holds that through last split, as you heard Hai saying he really wants to take it away. He thinks they have what it takes to be able to bring that statue home, the trophy rather, and put it on their shelf.
Not only is it about the rivalry between Cloud9 and TSM, but it's about the MSI spot as well. These teams
That's so true.
have heavy aspirations for Worlds since they make it to Worlds pretty much every year.
Yep.
And getting that little mini Worlds expectations as they're dodging. Oh, come on, guys.
Ooh. Mini Worlds, 20 extra championship points. Got him. See what Lustboy can do here. Now this is becoming the new thing. The support walk. It's just kind of you get buddy with the jungler.
He denied him level 2.
Serious.
Oh my God, Lemon Nation. What a monster on Morg right here. Santorin.
If Lemon Nation was a real place, I'd move there. I'll tell you that right now.
Unreal right there. Lustboy on the other side, unsuccessful in his harass because Cloud9 started directly on their red buff. Now they're going to take Santorin's red buff because they know he doesn't have Smite and they know he's not level 2. Well, that is some slick and clever play.
This is going to be difficult. Already Team Solo Mid is kind of trying something new here, and they're putting on the back burner by Cloud9, and just more and more is going to be taken from this. We'll see how long it takes Santorin to make an effect in this game. He was the one to flash in and kill high with Bjergsen to start. I don't think we'll be seeing that this game, at least not anytime soon.
I really love what Cloud9's been doing as the lane swap meta continues to evolve. It's gone through so many iterations at this point. There was, way back in the day, the everyone hits level 2, turret dive, 3-man or 4 dive, almost every single game.
Right.
Then eventually, people progressed to double jungling. And because they were getting denied so heavily when the turrets became too difficult to dive. And it was all about denying the top laner farm. What Cloud9 has been doing with Lemon Nation's Roam is denying the jungler farm in the lane swaps. Because since they know they're giving one lane up, they take the other lane's pressure vacuum that basically doesn't exist right there, and they use that support roam to go and harass the enemy jungler. And Santorin, to his credit, did manage to finish his jungle without aid, but he got a lot stolen away from him, and it was a really cool play by Lemon Nation.
You know, the next thing that you see that came out of this is that people are following Lemon Nation in his tracks with that. Now the supports are roaming into the jungle. A little bit of a to-do that he has kind of sprouted there to really get into the jungler's head. Seems like everybody's taken to it. The bottom lane is getting quite pushed here. Too much of a freeze as they get as much damage down onto the turret as they can. Top lane, however, is trying to be held off from Dyrus at his lane. As we see Bjergsen just get back. A little down in CS, but he should be able to clean that up as he comes in.
It was all about getting his tier as quickly as possible.
Right.
Bjergsen had enough money for the tier of the goddess, shopped right away. Hi. He wants to shove that lane as fast as possible. Time to Valk over top of it.
Yep. He had to squeeze through just to get that extra damage on the W back in the lane. So now Bjergsen nicely gets there for the siege wave, back to the right time, and like you said, with that gold for his tier, begins to stack it up. Be ever so nicely without that W costing anything these days. So he will catch up. High looks to come back to lane, trying to build out the phage, but goes for a little bit of vision as well, as he doesn't have all the money he needs. And that vote getting much closer after game one has swayed a few minds.
Cloud9 fans coming out of the woodwork
That's
now.
right.
After they win that first game.
Hey, we're gamers. We sleep late. We're still waking up.
Yeah, and the early jungle denial, we'll see how much that sets back Santorini. He has been farming pretty well, though. Meteos has stayed out so long with the double jungle from balls.
He's got to deliver presence.
Despite everything that Cloud9 did, Dyrus and Santorin both have level advantages on Meteos and balls. So scratch all that advantage stuff that I was talking about. Experience-wise, TSM is actually up in those categories. Surprising.
Right, they were still doubling. He was going through solo somehow still.
Yeah.
Had he gotten any more pressure, that would have been pretty bad.
I feel like Meteos double jungled so much with the Maokai, and Dyrus was able to soak experience in the top lane, but the main credit actually goes to Santorin for knowing how to jungle without early level 2, without having his own side of buffs. Used his smite very efficiently on the Gromp, was able to farm while Dyrus was soaking experience, and it ends up being a slight win for TSM experience-wise.
There you go. That's some practice for yourself. Get through the jungle without smiting. Just go.
Yeah.
Also take damage and have your grab stolen.
Have the other Krug stolen. Don't hit level 2. Get hit by 2 Morg bindings. Now you're simulating what it's like to jungle against Lemon Nation.
There you go. Hard mode scenario. Yep. Talking about the first game being quite typical. Most of the fans saw that play out. It is going to be a close series. Liquid very happy they're placing third this split. Now watching Cloud9 and Team Silamid fight for number 1. There it is. He has pleased the fans. High farming in the mid lane. So back and forth.
CS.
They're keeping this one safe. Like you said, Bjergsen is going to keep himself in a position where he can't be easily ganked. Kog'Maw doesn't have too many escapes other than that summoner spell, but he's running Ghost Flash to make sure he can dodge skill shots and pretty much anything in the fight.
Extra mobility, summoner spells.
Yeah.
Honestly, Kog'Maw just wants to survive the early laning phase until he gets his ultimate, which Bjergsen has done. It changes the early game strategy for TSM, though. It's no longer a guide to gank for. Which is interesting that Cloud9 still puts so much pressure on Santorin to prevent early game ganks, when the early game ganks actually aren't that threatening in this particular game. Instead, they're farming up. Meteos still hasn't ganked, despite being the superior early game ganker to the Sejuani.
Right.
And Cloud9 needs to make an impact of some kind. Smart of him to come down here for this wave, though, because there's a significant risk of a dive if he did not.
Also not knowing if Santorin has catapulted himself to 6 just yet. He did see that they were higher level as they entered C9's jungle earlier. Ball is cleaning up the CS, does get the siege. He actually cleans up that wave nicely, but a lot of focus here from Team Silamid is going to be warded out.
Yeah, and
very safe play here for C9.
Cloud9 doesn't have another lane pushing yet. Now that TSM has 4 people down here, the wave clear, though, of Gragas Maokai is substantial. Really good map placement of himself by Meteos there.
Oh.
The Kog'Maw ultis could come in if Bjergsen wanted to support this, he's just stuck farming.
Lustboy has that passive shuriken up. Definitely could have caught the stun. Just on the outside, High gets himself to safety, saving his summoner spells, and we'll get back to mid lane as well. So TSM is definitely trying to use this composition right away here, even though they were kind of kicked in the early game. Santorin doing a beautiful job to keep them from falling too far behind. Just about 700 gold in the lead for C9 here. Sheen fixed up. Actually, before High has finished his phage, he wants to be able to trade a bit of damage back if he does get in range of Bjergsen, it seems. BS swords for the 80 carries here as this lane start to pan out.
Interesting. Meteos has enough gold from all the double jungling. He wasn't soaking experience, but he was soaking gold, as well as helping balls catch that big wave. He gets a pretty early Cinderhulk on Gragas.
I've actually seen him play the same way in Italy, right? He'll just farm his face off, and then he comes out of nowhere, and you're like, where did this guy come from that I haven't seen all game?
Where did all this power come from? That's the real
Nice.
question.
Nice twisted
And here's
advance.
Meteos' gank. Oh no! Dyrus missed his flash.
Dyrus flashed right into it, and he gets body slammed. They're going to get a little bit of that from Meteos and Balls coming up first blood.
Very poor avoidance of that gank there by Dyrus, burning his flash and still getting hit by the very wide Gragas that he needed to respect more heavily.
Ooh, that's the E used as well. Lustboy doesn't have an escape unless he tries to flash out of this. Turtle repairing a bit of that error there. Elimination, great brush control.
Cloud9's getting these lanes in pretty good control right now. Bjergsen still delaying into Zeko.
You serious?
Oh, now Sneaky's in trouble though.
Oh.
Elimination committed pretty hard to try and get that binding.
Whoa!
Oh my!
The Rend in the end, baby. Woo!
4 points in Rend.
Oh, man.
Early on for Wild Turtle. Elimination, just when you think you had an edge.
Yeah, that.
One missed binding that he committed for, and Wild Turtle makes a Wild Turtle play.
That's an absolute false sense of security given there to Elimination and bait. Hook, line, and sinker for
And
TSM.
they get the blue off.
Yeah, that's just going to mention they creep down, take the blue. That means they're going to get even more vision here. So High is going to have a hard time trading with Bjergsen if he continuously gets his.
Controlling both blue buffs for an AP Kog'Maw is so amazing. One of the most important champions to have a blue buff on is AP Kog'Maw because he is ridiculously mana intensive. I mean, Cloud9 was winning these laning phases, and it was looking like they had a chance of snowballing the mid-game away.
Yeah.
But misplay there by Elimination and Sneaky gives a lot of pressure back to TSM. The blue buff steal as well as the kill and the pressure in the lane.
Santorin creeping on a pink ward. They want to hit this lane again. They know C9 may try to get a bit of an edge back, but C9 are not. They know they want to stay safe after that situation, so it doesn't look like Santorin's going to get too much out of this situation here in the top lane. And High now forced to farm without that blue in the mid. He's kept himself up in CS. Also, another game where Bjergsen has not been able to roam. We'll see how that impacts everything. That does mean that mid lane is going to get a bit more pressure. Not enough to kill Bjergsen this time, though.
I mean, it just makes it even more important that Wild Turtle picked up that kill, because no one is going to help him this game. Santorin, maybe on Sejuani. Bjergsen's not going to roam, and Dyrus certainly isn't going to help. Dyrus is so defensive this game on that Scion. Normally you see a Scion max Q or E. Dyrus is maxing his shield, his W right now, because he is in complete defensive mode, just trying to pick up farm. A lot of good it's doing him as well. Good thing he maxed that shield, otherwise he might be dead off to that culling.
That definitely could have taken him down had he not had...
He has no offensive threat though, so Sneaky has to bully him around.
Well, with Dyrus being pushed out in the bottom lane, they want to get pressure in the top. Answering the turret here. Now one for Team Solo Mid. Once they got the first one in Game 1, Team Solo Mid was able to go all the way across the outer line of turrets and take them down immediately. Well, one's taken for the next. Cloud9 makes sure they get something even more.
Yeah, well,
no! Whoa! Hey! All right, that might have been a little too far forward. Thought High could give him a bit more help. Don't go too close to Lustboy in the brush. That's going to be the stun. He's actually able to take down Wild Turtle in that situation. The Lustboy kind of just dipped out of the situation.
Couple of misplays right there by both teams. Balls underestimated the Ken and Callista dive combo right there when he was trying to stay under turret, and then Wild Turtle overestimated his own strength against a Corki, gets hit by the skill shots, and goes down himself. Ends up being an overall trade right there. Kill for kill, turret for turret.
I feel like we're getting some Scrim-esque moments out of these guys. Be like, I think I can. Actually, let's try it. Let's go.
They're just testing their limits, Riv. That's what they like to say.
Exactly. Elimination testing the limits of Dyrus. And looks like he's at the end of his fuse on that one. Backing once again, just getting back to the lane after being called out. He's not getting too much time with the minions. So he goes back safely. He does have his flash coming up in a little bit here, but he's going to head towards the top lane. So we could look for a TP coming from him into a play. We still have to see if he can ring the dinner bell and get that Scion ultimate placed nicely. So BM.
Well, Bjergsen, I think he has enough to get his Ludens.
Get it.
Yeah, he's sitting on 2,400 gold. I'm not familiar enough with the build path to know what the needed sea large rod plus the upgrade is. But he is very, very close. Wants to go back as quickly as possible. As soon as AP Kog'Maw gets the Luden's Echo, it becomes devastating. There it is.
Start to hurt, indeed. There it is. And he actually had an extra 250 to go ahead and upgrade that trinket. Sitting on pretty much no more gold as he throws a ward and some biscuits in there. So he's actually going as well, that support tree, so he can keep the mana up for mana-intensive Kog'Maw. The tier getting stacked for him is now sitting at just around 400. Looks like he'll be sitting pretty just over 20 minutes as he gets his Muramana fixed up. A lot easier for him to clear these waves as well and stay out of range of high. He's got himself up 5 CS now.
Yeah.
Things are starting to pan out. It's really who can get the first fight off of this one.
Ooh, step slow.
Can Santorin get 5-man?
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing many more 5-man Sejuani ultimates this series. Cloud9 will want to spread out through that, as well as Black Shield, hopefully preventing at least one person from getting hit by it.
Yeah.
The way these teams trade objectives, though, really shows how familiar they are with each other and how much they've actually copied each other's playstyles throughout the year.
That's a good point.
Early on in the year, Cloud9 and TSM just started copying each other's lane swaps, or copying CLG's lane swaps because they were the best. They're very free to just take whatever someone else is doing and adapt it to their own playstyle. This would be a true example of it if Bjergsen takes the AP Kog'Maw as in the mid-focus team and they're able to win with it.
Well, so far sniping high when he's throwing out the living artillery. Just not a whole heck of a lot of range or damage coming out for that first ult unless you can follow up with that W. TSM wants to grab a little bit more objective control here in the game, especially having a Kog'Maw as well. They'll be able to chew down Baron when they want to. Balls now to clean up the bottom wave. Definitely a closer game between the top laners in this one, 70-70 in CS. So can they control this again? It's going to be very big and hurt high once again.
Yeah, I will not be able to spam that much.
Nope, just about no contest there. They can just watch it go down.
Maybe they get some position in the mid lane, though. It's still going to be difficult. They have to respect the Sej ultimate, and Bjergsen can keep him at bay with that blue buff.
He's down to half mana already, and he hasn't really tagged anybody with those attacks. First living artillery comes out and hits him. Valkyrie's away. Balls is getting good free time in the bottom, though. If Cloud9 can kite the fight here and hold this middle turret.
This is the setup that TSM wants. Blue buff, Luden's power spike on the mid lane Kog'Maw. He lands a few spells, he pushes people clean off the turret. Cloud9 has no real sustain if the 80 carries get hit here. Maokai and Gragas can kind of heal themselves up, but it is really hard to defend. At this point, either Cloud9 has to be in mid lane at full health to engage, or they have to be split pushing lanes while TSM is grouped. Neither are happening right now.
Not enough just powerful wave clear off the bat. They have a little bit. Meteos can't do everything by himself. Good aggression as they also get high to come back in there. Once they get Elimination, the Tormented Soil, they should be able to clear waves so much better. So TSM actually cannot get the middle turret after actually putting quite a few members there, just about 4. Sion back to the bottom lane as Dyrus cleans up that bot wave.
Meteos burning that ultimate. Just for the turret. Diminishes his ability to apply pressure to lanes. Which is good for the wave clear, it saves the turret, but it also makes the next round of turret pushing by TSM much safer. And maybe even gives them some time to shop a bit of their own stuff.
Wow.
Bloodthirster on Wild Turtle. Going to be going Hurricane after that.
Bjergsen also grabbing himself an elixir.
He's going all out on
18 minutes.
All out on that mid-game power spike.
400 gold that you just thrown out.
Yeah, there's a surprising amount of mana regen on that mid-game elixir as well.
That's true.
But it is a very Bjergsen-esque thing to do. He probably buys more elixirs like that around 20 minutes than any other mid laner.
Right.
Because he often has an early game advantage, but wants to crush the game at that exact moment.
At least he's brought up his pink wards. I remember that one season he went 11 or so games without buying a pink ward as a mid laner. He's right at that, though. He is helping. Oh, there you go. 2 wards there.
Even so, High still purchases substantially more wards each game.
That's true.
Many times, most mid laners would go back, buy a ward. If High has 225 gold and he's in base, he's buying 3. And he'll play some eventually.
Definitely make sure he gets his sweeper early, really providing assistance to any of the snowballs. Now, A little bit of love around the Dragon Pit as it is alive. This fight could be big enough for Baron in 30 seconds as well, so a lot can hinge on this fight. Mid turrets do need to be taken down, however, if TSM wins this one.
It's really dangerous for Cloud9 to initiate, especially against Kennen and Callista.
Yeah.
Either the Kennen can just stay true and zone them out, or get thrown into the squishies once Cloud9 dives through. It's basically Corki poke versus AP Kog'Maw poke. And typically the AP Kog'Maw poke will win this one. TSM definitely trying to abuse this Luden's Echo right now.
Yep.
Gonna be tricky.
See a Beard glowing with the sorcery now. A little bit of that extra damage over the wall could be Meteos, but the team is not following. They're pressuring middle, trying to go to the beat of their own drum. Could be a good trade. They already have one dragon, so they're just giving up the equal. Looks like they may still try to engage the fight, knowing that Dyrus is out of position. That's going to be balls going straight in. Lustboy doesn't really get too good of an ultimate on that one. He pulls back in the fight, but they're able to drop balls, knowing the Lustboy didn't need to go too deep.
Lemon.
Dyrus from downtown just crushes Lemon Nation. They follow up with Bjergsen to secure the kill, and they may even be able to get more with this turret prepped. They are actually going to call that one off. They come up with 2 kills nicely.
Lemon flashes backwards to the charging Scion. That does not help you. He even threw a Dark Binding at it. It looked like Lemon Nation literally panicked and just pressed all his buttons at that point. But the team fight itself in the favor of TSM. Cloud9 traded the objective. The gold comes back for TSM. Even after Dyrus got caught there, it just kind of goes to show you some of the brute force power that TSM has with this power spike right now, as they're able to force that dragon.
Looked like Dyrus was caught out.
He was.
That's where he feels the safest. That's where he comes out the biggest. We'll see this one more time. I thought Lustboy kind of panicked because he was right out of the fight, but he didn't had everything they needed. Right.
Thank goodness, though, he gets the Fate's Call from the Callista, and even with all that missing, not a great Kennen ultimate, a missed Sejuani ultimate,
Boom.
Elimination gets caught up by Dyrus, making it a 2-4-0 and a turret trade.
What a disgusting composition you kind of see come together there. If Scion hits that person, they're getting living artillery. They're getting popped up again, which means they're getting a second living artillery. That person could die from max range for Kog'Maw with just Dyrus being there. It's so well used. We might see it again coming from these guys. 22 minutes on the clock. We do see the potential that this composition from Seam Solo Mid has, but still, these game-changing ultimates. A good Grag Assault separates Bjergsen from the team. They're out a lot of power.
Yeah, and the blue buff control been incredibly critical.
Yep.
For Bjergsen in this game.
We see High starting half of these fights, half mana.
It's very true.
Next one should be good.
He finally got his blue buff?
Finally got his.
That's very important for the poke war that they might end up having. But now with 3 auto turrets down on both sides, it's that open map situation again, where TSM this time again has gone with the mid lane trinket for the AP Kog'Maw, whereas High's gone for the sweeper. So therefore Cloud9 gets slightly more vision denial, will have to pay more for their own vision control. And TSM will have more vision, but slightly less vision denial unless they spam pink wards, which we've seen them buying a numerous amount of.
Bjergsen's placement on those, very tricky. Even thought that one was going to miss sneaky, but he is getting them to connect. Dyrus, the face check, but that Soul Furnace max keeping him nice and tanky. He throws off the ultimate. Now the living artillery's hit. Didn't get that full pop-up, though, as they try to change targets. The team not really in communication right now. High to the backside. A lot of peeling going down here for Cloud9 on the side of Team Solo Mid. There's the ult, but Bjergsen got pushed away with Wild Turtle, and they're still alive for that situation. Very scattered. Only Lustboy and Balls go down. Yeah,
Lustboy found himself over on a corner for some strange reason. That was a very odd fight right there, but still, TSM is able to trade that. Santorin and Sejuani ultimates have been nothing compared to Meteos' ultimates from the last game, but it has not mattered here because the damage from the Kog'Maw and the overall team fighting for TSM has just been better.
A good push through. Clean and clear for TSM to get that turret without any trouble. High went off immediately towards the top side to add a little bit of pressure to the map. Always trying to facilitate something more for the team if they know they're kind of being knocked down a few rungs. May not have the clearance to do this.
Yeah.
Stay safe. A little scary there from High.
Well, he was trying to get a nice, cheeky little buff steal after having a pretty good team fight high.
It would have been good. I mean, he's going for a ton of peel for himself, right? That red buff on top of the blade now that he's actually cored second.
High really likes the Bilgewater Cutlass instead of Luden's Echo on the mid lane Corki, mainly because it gives him more split pushing and dueling potential. I mean, even in that last fight, we saw High Valking on top of Lustboy to get off the active from the Bilgewater Cutlass and kill him. Can't do the same types of plays with Luden's Echo Corki.
So, the Righteous Glory now finished up on to Meteos, which also kind of seems scary as well. Running into this team solo mid composition needs to be done ever so carefully, or you're going to be running into a big front line of tanks, and Dyrus and Santorin are completely ready for that. Buffs are being cleared up now. Cloud9 has found a way to break TSM's vision once in Game 1. We'll see if they can do it again here in Game 2.
This time, though, they don't get the Sejuani on their side. They actually decided to first pick the Gragas. And when Balls has been able to initiate and catch a person on Maokai, it hasn't really been a catch. Unless they can actually get their mitts on Bjergsen and blow him up right away, they're set, or Callista actually, they're setting themselves up for pain. Getting Sejuani or Sion won't matter. They'll still get off their ultimates. Getting Callista can very easily be pulled back from the cannon, even after getting the stuns off from the ultimate. So the target selection that Cloud9 has is very limiting.
Yeah.
And the poke they are subject to is very powerful right now, making it really hard for Cloud9 to go in and get fights. Don't recall on top of pick ward. Bad idea.
Maybe they don't see me. The mind games. 4 seconds on Dragon. It looks like that will be soloed out by Wild Turtle. No trouble for him there. So this means TSM is getting all the things they want now with really out the pressure of Cloud9. Except, okay, Cloud9 starts to back off just a little bit. I thought they were going to clear that ward and do what they needed to at Baron. Pressure, however, towards the mid lane, it could be for Bjergsen and Santorin here. But it's only clearing. Look how many wards there are. They actually don't have a chance to even get in for a fight right now.
Again, TSM with the ward spam builds. They have 2 guys with Sightstone, so 4 wards every time they go back to base for free. And the 2 upgraded yellow trinkets, which is a yellow ward up to 2 charges that recharges while you're out on the battlefield every 60 seconds.
Yeah,
basically,
you don't have to go back.
That is 4 people that can place down the maximum number of wards without cost at all times. 12 full green wards for free, basically, with those combination of vision controls.
Absolute priority to that. I even thought Bjergsen would maybe switch to a scrying orb at some point, but it looks like he's just going to completely stick with it. It's too much of an advantage, really, to give up that vision. Here towards the mid, saplings and the likes are what Cloud9 can use from very, very long range. Can't really initiate onto high as he would just jump out of the situation, but Dyrus here seems much more comfortable than on a Lulu, being able to be in the front and really produce results for the team. Plays with confidence.
And Cloud9 is really hoping that TSM makes an overreach right here, because TSM has the strong team fight right now. If Bjergsen is in a safe place, they're generally safe. They're going for blue buff. Cloud9, they don't want to go for blue buff.
Now fighting without that. They actually tried to take this, hoping they would have the upper hand as they were focused on that blue, but it was quickly taken down, and they can retunnel right back onto Cloud9.
Yeah.
C9 they're scratching at TSM right now, and they're not getting much out of it.
Really light scratches onto that max shield Scion. Maybe they try and use that pressure to go push up the mid lane. Cloud9 trying to play the rotational game. They're getting some damage on the mid turret.
Sneaky with good focus. He may have to back off here. Dyrus throws down the ulti right into the team. He gets the 3-man pop-up as well. The follow-up now from Lustboy. The Fate's Call can still save him, but he wants to stay in the fight. Him and High now on the back line, trying to throw out the shurikens. We see that Meteos is able to take down Dyrus, and now it's the throw. Lustboy gets called back into the fight, and they're going to try to chase down Cloud9 here. Bjergsen gets the Void Ooze just on the end. Still has the Living Artillery in range. Only a little bit of mana left for him, but he will miss that next shot into Meteos, and I don't think he'll have enough to continue with the kill.
Bjergsen can't land enough Living Artilleries. Cloud9 gets out with the sliver, and a fight that didn't seem like it would go Cloud9's way after Santorin landed his best Sejuani ultimate of the game, results in 0 kills for TSM and 2 deaths.
One more time. Dyrus is nailing
beautiful.
these.
I think it was 4. Yeah, a 4-man stun as High got stunned while Valking away into a max charge Q from Dyrus. and then a cannon ultimate on 3. But those game-changing ultimates, Meteos blasts back the damage dealers. It gives Cloud9 time to kill the tanks. They kill both of them while they're gone because they have double AD carries that were not bursted out entirely. Bjergsen could not land the long-range living artilleries. Cloud9 takes it. Now, while Bjergsen was going for the blue buff, Cloud9 goes for the Baron on top of a ward.
That Blade of the Rune King as well from high, helping to cut this down with Sneaky, and Cloud9 on the back foot the entire game. Come up again with Baron. Come up again with a fight. Not that turns this game on its head. This one has always been close, but they bring it right back into a very heated match.
Wow, Cloud9 wins a mid-game team fight with a good Sejuani ultimate on one of the sides. Somehow Cloud9 wins it. They take Baron, and then they try and take control of the game. What a close battle both of these games have been for the first 30 minutes. And the brazenness of Cloud9 there is, I actually want to point out something they did very smart on that Baron. They know how many wards TSM can spam. TSM was placing a ward inside the pit. Cloud9 did not want to waste any hits on wards that were not towards the Baron. I checked that it wasn't some type of vision bug. The pink ward very clearly saw the ward that was being placed in the back of the pit. But Cloud9 knew they could not kill all the wards the TSM would place. They focused all their damage onto Baron because they knew TSM. They had spotted them on the other side of the map. They rushed it down. They get the Baron. Great calls.
Also been something we've heard Meteos say is he is a complete trust for the team if there's ever a call to stop. Everybody stop. They know to do that, and they'll continue it. Just something that they keep a very calm, cool head about. And it's a very scary situation that can really throw a lot of people off. Turtle here, putting the shell on, gets just half damage onto high, cannot trade back. Elimination, however, gives a binding out to boot on that one. 1 minute here on to Dragon. It'd be great for Cloud9 to put a little bit more damage down, but they may just be able to burn this and head out.
Such an amazingly close game and series right here. I mean, game 1 was hinged on team fighting from Cloud9. Game 2, TSM has that really big mid-game power spike with the Luden's Echo Kog'Maw. He's going to be hitting another one pretty soon if he completes either Leandry's or Void Staff on AP Cog and really start wrecking people. And in these best-of-5 series, we've seen so many games, so many series go all 5 games. We've seen 2-0s, reverse sweeps. But specifically for this Cloud9 versus TSM team, like, we know that they play each other really tight and they're going to be trading a lot of games. It is highly unlikely that if Cloud9 goes up 2-0, that TSM actually wins 3 games consecutively when Cloud9 can play this tight every game. So they have to kind of trade games, and there's a little bit of luck in this series in winning it as well when the teams are as close as they're proving to be today. TSM has to win this one, and it's close.
Well, they're putting all their eggs in that basket of the Kog'Maw. Again, another elixir built up onto Bjergsen. 800 gold worth, unless he snuck another one by. It could be 1,200, but I think it's only been 2 have gone towards getting those spikes, trying to make sure the fight's theirs. With Cloud9, I mean, not worried about the Dragon.
Cloud9 has Baron, TSM.
Right.
You can do that if there's not Baron minions up to mid lane. Cloud9 might get an inhibitor off of this.
Well, having those 2 games in a row may be something that Cloud9 gets to work with. Great damage you see coming from that Bjergsen Luden's Echo.
Where's the fight? They're kind of trapped in the base now.
Lost Boys, so far out.
Behind them.
Gonna miss him. Santorin does come in. Balls in elimination right there. Sneaky's actually hit on the backside, but now he's able to fire from that area. It's just a shooting range for him in high here as Meteos is on the front. TSM now trying to turn the tide of the fight. Soul Furnace is on for Dyrus, but he does not have catch potential. That's Roar the Slayer actually hit high. He velks away, and this is what chase is going on. They better have their laces tied. No tripping up here, Cloud9. Because TSM is on a rampage down mid lane. 3 dragons that they're pushing with right now. It's going to help them to get through these turrets, get through these waves. It looks like they're backing off for the time being to get those waves pushed.
Critical skill shot accuracy. Those living artilleries are not easy to land, not easy to dodge. It's skill that's involved there. Bjergsen lands again and again onto high on the tail end of that fight, eventually giving TSM the advantage, which saves what was a really bad call by TSM, if we're going to be honest about it. Going for Dragon when the enemy team has Baron. Yes, TSM got the Dragon, which gave them that 5% move speed, but they lost 2 mid lane turrets, including the door to their base, which is now wide open for an inhibitor that can be taken. The ironic thing about all that is because they had the 5% move speed, they could chase down for the extra points.
They could indeed. They did not stop running down that mid lane. And they picked up a few that also helps stop Cloud9, helps TSM stop Cloud9 from getting back into the lanes quick and getting everything pushed. A little bit of breathing room for both teams and only a 600 gold lead. So slowly going up with the minions being farmed for TSM. 4 to 5 in turrets. Really looking at that mid inhib now. C9 has something to go after every time. Force TSM into a fight that they have to fight. It's going to be very tough. However, that choke point could be exactly what Santorin wants Cloud9 to walk through in the front's doorstep.
And a pretty dangerous situation Cloud9 was in last fight, where Sejuani actually snuck around behind them.
Yeah, that was
and
a good call.
Was able to get pretty good ultimate off. Surprisingly, with all the tank initiation from TSM, the carries of Cloud9 have remained very safe throughout this game. 0 deaths onto Sneaky, who's building up more and more damage. 1 death onto High. They have been slicing through Santorin and Dyrus, who are doing their damnedest to build up armor and stuff, but with 2 Last Whispers and 1 Blade of the Ruined King, they're not going to last long, ever. Cloud9 is only going to be building more damage, and it becomes kind of a tricky proposition for TSM to create long team fights for which AP Kog'Maw to poke. They need to be able to have control, poke outside the turrets, and not need the tanks to be taking damage in order for Bjergsen to be doing it.
Much more of an on-the-same-page fight. A lot of these have been scattered.
Good lord.
Hello.
It's that Void Staff that he completed as well, giving him that extra bit of damage.
Also went for distortion boots as well to keep himself safe with that Ghost and Flash as much as possible. Haunting guys for Bjergsen in that inventory as well. He is leading the charge without fear here down the mid lane. Doesn't even have to worry about much. They have a free escape to the top side, so TSM already knows their exit here, and they're playing this one with confidence.
That's exactly what TSM needed to do. Bjergsen landed the poke that wasn't in a team fight, and now they're setting up a push. They push down mid, forces a Cloud9 defense. Therefore, they can take the top turret. That Kog'Maw.
Game starts to get hard when you can't actually see the people attacking you. And now TSM is going to start forcing their own inhib. Ultimate is up for Meteos. Won't be a explosive cask off the turret. They have the minion wave just for now. Looks like they actually won't go for too much. Baron is in 1 second, chat.
Yeah, and this game could slingshot back and forth in a couple of ways. The Baron being a big one of them, but the closer Cloud9 gets to their base, the easier it is for them to recover from Kog'Maw poke. So it's actually harder to push down turrets the closer TSM gets in the turret siege. This is a very bold force. I do not like that initiation from Dyrus. Here comes the TP.
Still had to flash it. Ken Ball's getting to range. He actually gets out of the way of Dyrus's decimating smash. They play it safe on this one, so that is a TP down, however. On the side of Cloud9, a flash down as well for High. As we look at the other summoners, all is right as rain for TSM.
Yeah, smart by TSM to not commit to a fight just because the Silent had used his ultimate. Cloud9 was holding their main cooldowns as well, didn't commit either. This is the vision game right now. Sentinels, pink wards, and there they are.
That's the tank. He's supposed to live the longest. Balls still throws himself into the fray. 48 seconds on these death timers right now. Both teams are losing a lot of health. It's Santorin that goes, however, for High, a priority target, and Bjergsen's able to help take him down before Santorin can get there. C9 is now running for the hills and actually running the wrong way towards TSM base.
They're going to be getting hit by a lot of poke. Where are they going?
Soul Furnace does not take down Lemonation. He may be able to push it. No, he tries to get a hit on the minion, but it died already. It doesn't actually go anywhere. A nice living artillery takes down Lemonation. Sneaky is dip, dodge, and dive in for his life. Takes a turret shot, and it's only a matter of time before he eventually goes down to the Voidoos of Bjergsen.
Bjergsen landing all the spells in these fights. It is so difficult to play against. TSM is making Cloud9 dodge in too many directions, and eventually they will hit them. Big time fight there by TSM, and it's all because they controlled the vision. That is what TSM specializes in, getting an edge, baiting a team into a bad situation, and then winning the ensuing fight.
All right, they got this, right?
Easy. Easy, Riv. They got this.
Woo! All right. That was a little too close for comfort, but Dyrus, he plays with death every game, so he's used to it. Wild Turtle, this will not be yours, says Balls and High. They're gonna
He's gonna try and stop.
Oh, that holy macaroni! Wild Turtle.
That's actually really critical. Not only does TSM have the Baron,
there's more poke.
Yeah. Now the poke arrives, and TSM's going to be able to secure that 4th dragon.
No way.
Yeah. One-man army there, Wild Turtle.
One-man army indeed. Wild Turtle coming up very big. They couldn't have touched him on the Callista. High is definitely not going to be hitting any of those skill shots as Turtle is just bouncing around. Great play come from him. Haven't actually seen too much Callista play from the side of Team Solo Mid this season. It's working
No,
out.
except for that highlight of him getting a pentakill last night in solo queue for Wild Turtle.
Yeah,
This fight itself, great Sejuani ultimate, for one. But mainly the positioning by Bjergsen is the critical thing right there. Yes, they could close on a Wild Turtle, but unless they can close on a Bjergsen, they are never truly safe. Because High had gone down, there's not enough sustained damage to take out the tanks, which gives Bjergsen time to go to work.
7-0-3. See, he's been doing some good work this game.
Man, I want to see the damage dealt to enemy champions after this game because Bjergsen has been crushing it.
Really is.
Poke champions almost always have higher damage dealt to champions, by the way, because they get access to so many more damaging opportunities. But this one's going to be off the charts.
Santorin, a little HP to take that damage. Cloud9 is in a very weird formation for this right now, but High can Valk over the wall and get himself to safety. However, this turret doesn't get too much protection out of this kind of half-moon strategy they have going on.
I mean, Cloud9's in a really tough spot.
Yeah.
Right here. I think it's at least one inhibitor down. They're going to try and hold the second one. Sneaky got hit by a bit too much poke before that fight.
Well, for having a poke comp, they are lining themselves up parallel to TSM for those shots. They just cannot get them to count. That was just a cue. There's a lot of damage to actually follow from the abilities that are made to do the damage. Two Blade of the Rune Kings now finished up as Sneaky and High are trying to get themselves a bit of heal and a bit of safety, as well as somehow to cut through Santorin and Dyrus at this point. TSM, another push towards the bottom lane with a huge wave crashing in towards the top.
Yeah,
they should be in the
cannon
base.
minions already. I mean, Cloud9 would have to initiate. They're going to try, but this is desperation.
Wild Turtle's on the back. Lustboy decides to stay on the outer ring. Love how he's using the ultimate on that one. Fate's Call throws him right into balls, and that's going to cut down the tree. A double kill for Wild Turtle there. The composition of Team Solo Mid this game just being used so well to get the poke damage, initiate, and make Cloud9 start fights with a disadvantage.
Yep, Bjergsen, unreal Kog'Maw damage right now. Trying to kill people on the fountain with this poke. Good God!
You are not safe on that fountain. You better be asking for your Guardian Angel at this point. That's one, that's two. That turret is actually not a kill for Wild Turtle. It's only 2 kills there, but the Nexus goes down, and Team Solo Mid tie up the series 1-1 against Cloud9.
Some significant style points coming through at the end for the clean ace on. Thing there is Bjergsen still carried the game, but only after 30 minutes. He was not able to carry them through the early game and the mid game because that's just not the way that AP Kog'Maw works. He needs the max range on that living artillery so he can hit you when you can't even see him.
Yeah, first range living artillery is still pretty short. It's not going to win you the game.
But then once he got that going, Cloud9 didn't have a big enough advantage.
So much damage.
They didn't have enough hard initiation tools to really get on top of Bjergsen's Kog'Maw. And TSM wins with a different style that wasn't Assassin Bjergsen in the mid lane.
Now this brings about one of my favorite points is what does the team do now with that new pick? Because I don't feel like banning out something like Kog'Maw is a defeated sense, right? That's definitely something that Bjergsen can use again.
They might have
to win
to,
the game.
honestly.
But no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Do they just ban it out now? I think they're going to have to.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a lot to work with. They have those 2 bans they're throwing at Lustboy right now.
Right.
Yes,
can switch it up.
It changes. Lustboy's very dangerous on Thresh and Janna, but there may be other priorities in the rest of the series.
All right, we'll have to see. We definitely have more to talk about and some other definite gentlemen to talk about it for us. Let's see what our analysts have to say on TSM's series-tying win.
Thank you, Riv. 1-1. We've got ourselves a series.
Yep.
I'm sure many people are very happy about that, but what I want to talk about is the fact that TSM did make some of the adjustments we had talked about in the previous segment to their team comp in terms of preparing it a little bit more for straight-up team fights by giving themselves a front line this time around.
I said pick a team fight or pick a Kog'Maw, and they did both. Kog'Maw wasn't AD. I didn't specify.
Yeah, sure.
But that was actually a brilliant last pick by Bjergsen because nothing can really reach him. And I was talking to Freak actually during the game. I was like, I would be surprised if Bjergsen dies this game, even if they lose, because you can't reach him. You can just disengage him with a Gragas barrel, and that's about it. He's going to get his poke off. If he runs out of mana, then he's a non-factor.
Yeah.
But that's really what it came down to, was can he get that poke off? Can they get to the level 16?
And what was cool is that TSM made these adaptations to their composition while still staying true to what TSM wants to do, right? Dyrus, yep, you're going to be essentially 1v2'd by the enemy jungler. Shield max Sion. He's not even coming in with the illusion of having lane pressure himself. There's no reason he wants any kill pressure whatsoever, so that's already right there. Not Lulu, but Sion, that's fine. Bjergsen is still playing a champion where if TSM goes for a siege, something they like to do, he has these long-range skill shots that are effective. It was Charm last game on Ahri. This time around, it's Kog'Maw with the Living Artillery. All these tools are still here, but as you were talking about, Aiden, they put together a better teamfight composition, and that worked really well. And then it came down to two good teamfighting comps that come down to execution.
Right. And I love the Sion instead of the Lulu, as you mentioned, because it allows them to be more proactive in their team fighting. With the Lulu, when they were ahead, they still weren't able to force as many fights as they wanted to. Here with Sion Sejuani, we get to fight whenever we want. They throw the cannon with the Fates Call in there as well. And there's no way you're getting out if we choose to pick this fight.
Yeah.
The
That's why I like
counterplay to that, though, was C9, which we saw illustrated midway through the game, was really nice with their ability to disengage.
Yeah, it's really cool. There is a really interesting texture to how the team fights worked in this game. So on one side, you've got essentially a double Blade of the Ruin King AD carry team. Sneaky got that item fourth. Okay, later on, but High intelligently buys it second. Ruin King second on Corki. And Meteos does a really good job of saving his ultimate to knock back the backline of TSM. So TSM engages in, Explosive Cask pushes Corki and Kalista away, who have no good ways without using summoner spells to get back into the fight, and then the AD carries swarm down, they kill off the Sejuani, they kill off the Sion, and then we'll 5v3, do whatever we want. We saw C9 get a Baron eventually that game because of this kind of stuff, and that was cool. But as time goes on, Kog'Maw gets higher levels. He can no longer be disengaged because the ulti is so darn long. And he just scales up in damage over time. So then once TSM can reach C9's backline, well, those guys get one shot.
Well, speaking of which, we're going to pull up our replay here because we're going to go pretty far into the game where exactly that happens. We watched Bjergsen land all of his skill shots here. Irene?
Yeah, so this fight actually breaks up into two different parts, and I love Bjergsen's positioning during this team fight. You're going to see Santorin ulti the backline, and those are the two things to watch for as we roll this clip out. You're going to see Santorin be like, all right, it's time to go after the vision's been denied, and boom, Bjergsen actually kites downward and around. He doesn't even want to be close to where C9 can actually touch him. So he walks around the wall, the Sejuani ultimate hits the backline, and then he's just throwing pop shots, and he's actually covering the escape option of Cloud9 at this point.
It's an auto on High.
Yeah, it's really actually quite brilliant how Bjergsen plays out this entire game.
We do see some pretty fantastic kiting here by Sneaky too, even at the end, just to no avail as he's fending off 1v4.
Yeah, and like I said, he covered their escape option, so all of C9 has to run up instead of back and out, and then they get picked off. Just because he has so much mana, he got the Archangel Staff second, that he's able to just keep throwing these skill shots out. And Sneaky, he tries his damnedest every game. This guy is so solid. And right here, it almost looks like he's going to start getting kills, but Bjergsen, out of nowhere.
With the snipe, absolutely. So, you know, that was another thing you talked about, Freak, was the mid lane stepping up here for TSM, right? If they're going to put focus mid lane and get him some early advantages, that they need to then use them more effectively throughout the rest of the game.
You have the best player in North America in Bjergsen. I think everyone can agree, right? MVP winner. He's probably going to be the MVP winner of this series as well, seeing games like this. Bjergsen's the best player in this entire league. He better put on a good performance, or TSM, what are you doing with this player, right? And so it was good to see him. Now, it was a different style. It wasn't go win, lane, win game. It was survive lane, scale into infinity. And hey, that's fine too, just as long as he's doing something that impacts the game. And by God, Bjergsen certainly did. So
that's the thing, is they adapted from that first game and said, we're going to play some team fights. We don't need to have him win lanes straight out and then try to transition that.
Yeah.
Just pick a laner that's going to decimate team fights when you get there, and that's what they played for. Even though they lost like the level 1 lane swap and all that with the greedy start, they were able to recover and just stall out for that late game. So I love the adaptation there by TSM.
All right, the last thing I kind of want to talk about is a very minor thing. When we look at this double 80 carry composition, we saw this massive front line. Yesterday we saw an interesting pickup on I Will Dominate, the Zeke's Herald onto the jungler for his 280 carries, one of which was building AP, so maybe not the best buy. He said Piglet requested it. But here, when you talk about how high those, or how big those tanks are scaling, while this damage is coming in from a Kog'Maw that you're not going to be able to get to unless you get through the tanks, would a Zeke's Herald or something like itemization, slightly different itemization, have helped here?
So I'll actually give my opinion on Zeke's Herald is that it's actually really good in double 80 compositions when the enemies have Thornmail and things that your 80 carries are killing themselves off of, because you want that extra life steal, and it gives you that boost. So that's my opinion on it. It's very situational. Itemization against the Kog'Maw, it's difficult because you need Righteous Glories. You need to just run straight through. The Sejuani's going to disengage you, though. Gragas, it's really hard to deal with it because it's that last pick Kog'Maw, so they need something to flank. It's all about the positioning. I don't know so much about itemization.
Yeah, I mean, if there was going to be an itemization point in the first place, I think it'd be C9 should probably play double Locket here. They were eventually just getting shut down by all the magic damage that was coming out. And, okay, double Locket, right, there's some anti-synergy, the shield's half value, the aura, the second aura only affects 2 people, but just having a little bit of extra, just don't get one shot by Cog Burst and ensuring the aura is there for the rest of the team, that actually could have been like the one itemization choice to really make here. But overall, I mean, you don't have great hard engage. You're looking for Morg bindings and body slam flashes. Like, none of those are actually going to reach Kog'Maw. So if you're not running assassins, and of course they can tell that because they picked Cog, like that's just, this champ is going to work against that comp.
It's a double-pronged threat, too, because it's Wild Turtle on Callisto. You need point and clicks to lock him up, so if the Maokai gets in there and uses them all on him, doesn't have them for Kog'Maw. The ideal situation is to have them grouped and deal with them at the same time, but you saw Bjergsen's like, nope, nothing to do with Wild Turtle, basically stayed 10 feet away from it all time.
Yeah, fabulous play individually for both of them in terms of positioning in those team fights, making sure they kept the 2 threats separated from each other. Well, that's going to about do it for us here at the Analyst segment. We have an amazing crowd out here watching with us today.
We do.
Here in Los Angeles, but there are a ton of viewing parties happening all over today. Here are the fans in Toronto where they've taken over a theater and are watching the game in style. A big screen for some big championship action. That's right. We got our own big screen here. We got a big crowd, and everything's good. But we're going to step away while Team Solomid and Cloud9 prepare for our round 3 of the championship finals. So don't go anywhere.
team in North America once again, showered in confetti, and a dominant victory.
Welcome back to our championship coverage out here. Great day, beautiful day, plenty of people. We're going to hit you with a glimpse of fans who are enjoying the action in Lake Forest, California, and already this series has delivered some pulse-pounding moments. But then we're going to head over and dive into Game 3 in just a minute, but first check on Twitter. Earlier in the broadcast, we asked for you to share how you're enjoying this championship weekend. At S. Sheja says, definition of studying. Watching LCS finals with open books nearby. Didn't make a single chapter. Hashtag worth. Well, the homework may be suffering, but you get full credit for the LCS. And then at Whack Whack is rooting for Cloud9. He says, time to get the crown back, boys. Looking for some revenge there. And at 3Ventic gives us an inside look at how a chat mods watching the action. That looks pretty intense there. I don't know if I can handle all of that. Finally, we've got a crowd watching our coverage in style. At Mayfire Gaming says, this is how we LCS in Toronto. Plenty of people. Looks like I made a cameo too. Look at that.
Nice.
Would have put more makeup on if I knew it was going to be.
You're looking really cute today, Dash, by the way. I
didn't realize my head was going to be that big.
Well, it's got to make room for your ego.
Oh,
but that's mine. It's mine.
Yes, exactly. All right, well, thank you to everyone who shared your championship experience, but we want more, so keep tweeting at LOL Esports and use the hashtag LCS. Now we're going to shift gear into our third match between Team Solo Mid and Cloud9. And here we see them just a short time ago regrouping and making plans for Game 3. Maybe not. You're going to see more of me until that comes. There it is.
There we go.
All right. Well, here we go back to the sides that we had in Game 1.
Yeah.
TSM, they showed that they have a lot of team fight potential, and in the past, their best of 5 series has been phenomenal. We heard Dyrus say earlier, they're not afraid to lose the first game of a series. They use that to fuel the rest of their series, and they're always confident in their mid-series adaptations.
Yeah, a lot of that's Loco Doco at the same time. And I think the mid-series adaptations here is the fact that High is going to be able to counter-pick mid is very big for them right now, because I don't think TSM will blind pick a Kog'Maw. If they do, they risk the Kassadin last pick into it, and I think Corki will be a priority if the teams are going to go for a double AD carry composition and possibly flex on either side. So even Cloud9 could go for a Corki early.
All right, so we see with the Cloud9 having red side 3 games here, the importance of that mid lane counter pick. But Jab mentioned earlier the possibility of tossing out some of the Lust Boy bans in order to target more things at Bjergsen, maybe make High's life a little easier.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what plans come in here. So we saw the series plans was, okay, TSM will continue to leave Dyrus out on island. C now will try to abuse that. But the way picks and bans are playing out, it creates another set of strategies. Because right now, Balls is not getting any carry top laners. Hecarim banned away, Rumble banned away. So ganking Dyrus doesn't matter here, right? So first picking a top laner for Balls doesn't matter here either. So being blue side doesn't help these teams really any. Unless you're pinching like jungle champion pools, and it makes a real difference. Or you're pinching support champion pools, and that makes a difference. But otherwise, having red side and being able to pivot your team composition, right? Oh, they have no assassins. Cool, we can play AP Kog'Maw. Oh, they don't have X, we can pick Y. That becomes more important unless you're actually pinching someone off of champions that they can use.
It's always really strange to me, too, because we give side selection, and everybody picked blue.
Yeah.
It always blows my mind when it's like you get in a series and you're like, man, red side really has a big advantage here after these teams face each other and match up.
And the thing is, you saw C9 try to pinch off the support, right? You saw them throw a whole bunch of bans at Lustboy, force him onto Nami, take Braum, things like that, and yet, you know what, that plan, honestly, I feel like didn't really work. Like, I think the game was won in Game 1 by C9 for a different reason. But TSM clearly won because they got to play Kog'Maw for their 10th pick, and that was a really big deal. But the picks are locked in, so we got to see what these teams do with it.
Yeah, and we'll have to see if TSM can break that red side win streak here as we send it over to our casters for the call of Game 3.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Fantastic hosting on the day. We do have more games to get into, and we are about to hit Champion Select. Myself and Jat still controlling, driving, and spearheading the desk as we go into Game 3. This is going to be absolutely awesome. That Cloud9 kind of showed a little bit of shakiness, but came back strong. And that was more of TSM's game to kind of win with a little bit of variety in the mid lane.
Yeah, TSM definitely won that game, not the other way around. And the series is now underway, basically.
Absolutely.
Both teams have won a game, both teams have lost, and now it's about how does a team adapt to losing. Even though Freak was just saying blue side doesn't hold much value, one thing that is consistent is red side has banned Hecarim in both games, now all 3 games. So it's interesting that they think that ban is even more valuable than the wraparound from whatever the first pick Gragas has been.
Already seeing could be Thresh banned out by Cloud9 again. The Janna could follow as well to make sure Lustboy gets hit up once more. as Lemon Nation's Nautilus is taken out. We've seen that these bans have not stopped Lemon Nation and the rest of the supports, Lustboy, from entering the jungle early game, really getting in the hair of the other team.
And exact same bans from game 1.
Right.
When TSM was blue and Cloud9 was red. And I like this, actually. How TSM lost to the Urgot. Didn't lose to High's Urgot, but the Urgot was on the other side.
Right.
And the Gragas versus Sejuani doesn't seem like it has first pick value with the way Sejuani ultimates have been landed in this series. They've been more potent, I would say, than the early game Gragas jungling. Makes you question whether Meteos will even pick Gragas on this rotation, or if he's just going to side with Sejuani.
I wouldn't mind if that goes to the mid lane, seeing High go back to Orianna if it's something he's actually had his hands on. Xiao was really able to turn the tide. It wasn't the easiest lane, but it definitely proved to be big during the team fights, and it's kind of where these games are panning out, right? It's not a win lane win game for these teams. Too much has happened in the mid game to really make that early game a big impact. It's going to be Gragas, though, from Meteos to Sion as well for balls to come in this game.
Yep, still in theory, the Gragas can stand in front of the Sejuani and pull off some big plays there.
Yeah.
It will put emphasis on Meteos to make plays in the early game, though. This time, they're kind of trading champions that they have been defeated by.
You could say that.
Yeah, very similar champion pools across a lot of the players here.
Yeah. Definitely a very strong pickup here. We've heard Wild Turtle say in the past, when they get the better comp, Corki is one of the names that he shouts out in that list of the composition that they've picked up. So this will be good for him.
Well, especially Riv, because they have physical damage mid laner right now.
True.
That getting Corki as an AD carry is pretty good still.
Really
the
good point.
Splash of magic damage they'll be able to get.
Definitely seems not flustered, but they are taking a lot of consideration into whatever pick goes with this Corki. It's going to be a Maokai, and they lock that in for Dyrus.
Definitely a lot of discussion there, you're right. About Wild Turtle. They were basically just getting his input on what he wanted from the AD carry in this game.
Yeah.
Corki will end up working here, but they pick it blind pretty much into whatever Cloud9's bottom lane wants to be. Still some unpredictability on the support picks in this series. We've seen Braum and Morgana from Lemon Nation. Lustboys played Nami and Kennen. I doubt they'll play Kennen without Kalista, though.
Where are the comms for C9? There we go. Lemon's starting to talk, so it's definitely going down the line here as they pan this out. C9 usually a team to wait all the way down to the last moment anyways, and double lock in to give TSM the least amount of time to come up with a pick. So far, TSM definitely shows that they can fight, and it looks like that fight is going to be matched by a little bit of fight of their own. Cloud9 pick up Sivir and Braum.
Getting the extra move speed in a team fight is very important for Cloud9.
Yep.
Especially even in that last game. A lot of times Bjergsen would just use Ghost at the start of the fight on Kog'Maw, and then no one could touch him. Cloud9 wants a way to match that type of move speed. And they want to be the one dictating the fights.
Ha ha.
Remember, we are on the 5.6 patch before the massive buffs to Bard that happened in 5.7. Does that look like a face of a man about to play Bard? I think not.
I don't know. I can't see. Who's there? Oh, there he is. His last point. 12 seconds. What's the swap going to be? Definitely going to get something in here. A Kennen?
Ooh!
Again?
No Kalista this time. But still the Kennen. All right.
That's very, very interesting. Even more poke from that lane. However, though, not going to be just kind of stuck to dashing around when you auto-attack and poke. Now you can throw out the fast bombs and the missiles once you get the chance. So TSM, again, going with a composition where they can whittle down their opponent a little bit before getting there. See if it works. And so what is a big, big tanky line so far for Cloud9.
And what do they pick to complete it? They need a pretty solid laner to go up against Urgot.
Yeah.
There's still a super outside chance that TSM could do Urgot AD carry and Corki mid, but it's highly unlikely just because Bjergsen has had success on Urgot and Wild Turtle is so comfortable on Corki.
Loves Corki.
So Cloud9 could, with most certainty, pick something against Urgot here, but this is where High's champion pool does get tested. Because the two champions he's picked so far this series, TSM controls. And he goes for a Lulu, of all things. drew some gas from the crowd.
Not too thrilled about that, but they are getting what they need for this best of 5 series here. Haven't seen too many Lulus put up big numbers, but Xiao here in the North American LCS. We'll see what High can do.
TSM also has the Corky mid right now.
They do. The 22nd is the last moment they can swap for that champion select.
I'm wondering if they're going to stick with that. Bloop. And it's back.
Yeah.
Those guys. All right. I want to talk a little bit about the Lulu mid here, specifically against the Urgot. It is a fairly resilient champion to the Urgot because you're not a victim to the lock-on as much as other people are, since you can shield yourself. Yeah. As well, Lulu does work quite well with Sivir for the overall speed, but it is not your typical protection comp. Cloud9 may be very low on damage here unless Sneaky really gets going, which is a big danger here. Leaving the last pick to the mid laner and then getting something that feels like an underwhelming pick does tend to happen when you're against an Urgot. There's not very many good picks against an Urgot. Yeah. None that have been proven to work every game. So
not just yet.
Not very many is an understatement.
We'll see what they can do. You know what that graphic means. It's time to update your votes for who you think is going to win this championship series. Tweet hashtag TSM win or hashtag C9 win to @LOL Esports. Obviously, we will be tallying those up throughout the game. High with this Lulu pick. Definitely a question from the crowd, maybe the fans, but Cloud9 hoping that the mentality and the physical prowess still strong as they reach Game 3 here. We're definitely going to have 2 more games. It's basically now a best of 3 as both teams are up 1-1. Maybe with this in the mid lane, they have been keeping Bjergsen there, right? His roam has been down because they're focusing High. Maybe High can kind of do the opposite on that and push him in. Yeah. High says Bjergsen's wave control is just one of the things, though, that makes this split's MVP so dangerous.
The way he controls his wave lane, like whether he wants to push or keep on his side, he really likes to abuse that. Say you're pushing out, right? And you don't have wards, you're going to get ganked, or he's going to pressure that gank on you. So he does everything he can to try and abuse you for being in a bad spot, or if you're trying to greed for something.
And we see that time and time again. Yep. When we even saw it in Game 1, when High was getting the return gank, especially once they can burn that mid laner's flash in the early game. Bjergsen is able to prep that mid lane wave in just the right spot. However, the early games have been very traded between these two teams.
Much back and forth. Really, the only tangent has been when the supports have entered the jungle. But we also have seen that junglers can get themselves out of that. Santorin, namely, did not get hurt by being pushed off of his jungle at level 1. Here, a little more lax, but Lemonation, as well as Lustboy, is going to have that chance again to get themselves in the jungle and harass.
Yeah, pretty cool. They didn't actually get super deep wards.
Right.
But they're going to end up with the lane swap again. The level 1 games by these guys have become very advanced. Lustboy getting all his Spell Thief gold for just auto-attacking right now. Ultimately, Meteos won't let him secure this blue, though. He's got a smite. But once again, Lustboy will probably push Cloud9 all the way to the other side of the jungle. They do not want to deal with that harass. They saw what happened when they themselves did the support harass to Team Liquid earlier on in the playoffs.
So they're actually 2 on this one. Lemonation definitely came down a little bit later.
Yeah.
Huh.
Strange. This time, TSM wins pretty heavily on that. Notice how they cleared their entire jungle right there, whereas Cloud9 just the one camp. It's basically over a level of a single player's experience to the edge of TSM.
That sapling worked out really well for Dyrus. It didn't actually push the lane any, just ran over to Sneaky. That one will, however. It's going to be hard for him to get some CS here in the early game. It's what he's used to. He's already up by 6 for that jungle effort. So level 3 will keep him pretty nice.
It's really strange what happened there. Like, both teams had the same idea of a solo support walking into counter jungle.
Yep, it's been every game.
Cloud9 is playing it very defensively when they start their jungle. They are sending both people immediately onto the buff so that no one can push them off the buff when they get there. Yet Lemonation was very late in his invade, which allowed TSM to make a much greedier start. Dyrus took one camp, Santorin took another camp, then they grouped for the buff. Therefore, if Lemonation would have invaded early, he could have pushed them off the early buffs and then pushed them off the main one. But because he was late, he doesn't stop anything.
Same as last time.
They were almost expecting TSM to do a conservative start, where an early invade would have been protected by the smite of the jungler and the take of the buff. But because they just guessed wrong, TSM gets the early game lead.
Trying to make it that same as last time, where you just walk in with Riptide and be a nuisance on Nautilus. I guess not as easy here. Looking at that top now of Balls and Wild Turtle, they're going to be matched up here in the lane. Should go pretty evenly. Wild Turtle's obviously going to stay very safe here. And we'll see what Balls decides to go. It's interesting to see Dyrus level up that Soul Furnace right away, but just 1, 2, 3 for Balls right now.
I kind of doubt we'll see another maxed shield lane side.
It's like Gragas, or rather Meteos, doing a good job at getting all the scuttles. He's definitely going to be up in a bit of gold there. And Lust Boy, the side roam, is able to see him. So thwarts his roam towards the bottom lane. They now know where he is. And it doesn't look like Santorin's really in a position to gather anything off of this, but more of his own jungle. He is going ahead and get a ward out, however, since he's cleared everything.
Yeah, and looking at early jungle CS, I mean, again, Santorin is ahead of Meteos, level-wise. Very good job by him, making sure to control his own experience, gets his jungle upgrade before Meteos as well. Therefore, can maybe even be out on the map before Meteos.
Here's what we were looking for from high. Glitter, Lance, all you can to get that wave into the turret. I'm sure Bjergsen is having a hard time farming. We may actually see some movement from Santorin there in a little bit to relieve that pressure. Right now we're watching that pressure in the top lane. Balls is having trouble bottom a bit here, and Dyrus in the top lane.
Very high-leveled solo laners as well. Not much denial going on.
That's a good point.
Because of the support invades early. This time it really didn't pay off for Cloud9. Trying to shut down the jungle, they end up shutting down no one. Dyrus and Santorin both off to decent starts.
Double ring.
Bodes well for Cloud9 in this game.
As well for Dyrus. Get that HP, making sure he can stay safe in lane. Balls' teleport still up. Dyrus has used his Ahri to get back to lane, so he's hoping to stay here for quite some time. That may give Meteos something to gear for. Right now he's inside the jungle. He's going to find the boar. 5-4.
Yeah.
Doesn't want that.
Half a level behind. Meteos not even halfway to level 5. And getting more and more behind Santorin. At least he has the intel of where Sejuani is. Yeah. But he also needs to now respect that Santorin's going to be hitting level 6 pretty soon. 2 more jungle camps and he's there.
A lot of pressure on the Balls in that bottom wave on the minimap. You can kind of see him. They ran right past the minion wave to get damage on, and he stayed safe. Meteos clears top side. Looks like he doesn't have too much to do, so may go towards the mid lane after this. But both teams here definitely lacking to get any of their advantages to go to work. 600 gold lead for TSM is all they're working with.
Which is substantial, only 7 minutes in with no kills. That's 600 gold lead. This has been
numbers.
Yeah, it's been more of a one-sided. And look at the wave control. Bjergsen was praised for his wave control, but Cloud9 pushing into a level 6 Dyrus that they won't be able to dive. He's going to get a huge wave met. Whereas you look at the other side of the map, and Balls is getting denied down in the bottom lane. It's being frozen by Wild Turtle and Lustboy, and plays aren't being made in any side. Even now, Santorin, with level 6, is trying to push them off their own blue buff. He is so brazen in this move because he's on the strong side of the map for TSM.
They know the level disparity cannot be fought at all. Santorin completely pushes off Meteos there. He's left to kind of just scratch his head and run back to base.
Seriously, a crushing early game so far from TSM. From the very beginning, the invade from Lustboy pushing Cloud9 to the other side of the jungle. The late invade from Lemonation that does not deny TSM at all in their greedy start. Add to that the wave control in both of the side lanes.
Yeah.
Dyrus eating experience at his turret. Balls starving at his turret. 2 level advantage in the jungle. 1.5, 2 level advantage in the top lane. 1.5 in the jungle. And an 800 gold lead off minions alone.
And really? I was about to say the mid lane matchup being even kind of shows the threat that Lulu didn't pose to Santorin going in the jungle. He wasn't worried if High came over. He would have been able to get out easily anyways.
And this is huge. Again, the wave control is key in this game.
Yeah.
Santorin broke that because he knew the wave would freeze against High, and High needed to shop. If High leaves right here, he loses 2 waves of experience. That's why he wanted to stick around, shove that wave into the turret, not let it freeze, and then he's able to shop. But it's a delayed shop. Bjergsen, full, able to get his blue buff without punishment, increasing TSM's edge.
Great timing is here as well for the blue. Something I've been watching more lately, but haven't watched enough games yet to really see who does it and who doesn't. But a lot of mid laners who get blue and then back, they're losing good 30 seconds on that blue. That if other people are aware of that, they're going to use that window at some point.
Always ideal to get blue right after you come out of shop.
Right.
Obviously, you can't always set that up. Sometimes you lose vision control. Sometimes the enemy preps a trap for you.
Or you want to get your buff off the map so they don't. Right.
All those things. I mean, Cloud9 couldn't control their own blue buff this game. They were trying to get it off the map, actually, but Santorin beat them to that spot.
The duos have matched back up. We'll see how this fares. It hasn't been like this for too long, but we can already see level 7 for Wild Turtle over the 6 and 5 to Sneaky and Elimination. Pressure here towards Bjergsen in mid. There is the flash ult that they wanted. The teleport in is going to keep Bjergsen there. He chooses to swap out onto Meteos. That's the guy that was going to do the damage and keep him in the fight. And they turn that one around for a kill. Dyrus' teleport comes in and gets it.
Great job by Bjergsen there, withstanding the burst from the Cloud9 gank. Meteos using his E-Flash, and it actually gets turned around on him. That is disastrous for a Gragas jungle. Getting first blood onto Dyrus as well will only extend the disparity in that top lane matchup. TSM with a fantastic start.
Bjergsen saying thank you very much, Summoner Heal, throughout that play. Definitely helping him to stay alive on that one. High tried to get the Ignite down, but it did not cut through enough. TSM's pressuring this, but it looks like Cloud9 is getting in their face a little bit as well. I don't think they'll be able to work off that too much, just some trade damage.
Yeah, Cloud9 in a pretty tough spot right now. They need to make some opportunity here with Sneaky Elimination. Sneaky as the main damage source needs to be the one that's fed in this matchup. Currently he's got a BF sword to a Sheen, slight advantage. Balls also looking like he's going down bottom lane. Cloud9 needs to consolidate right now since they are losing the split-up game and try and put everything onto Sneaky at this point.
See how that first gank went through.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically just Meteos flashing in for the E, but nice heal as he's getting ignited. And honestly, Maokai plus the Sejuani ultimate leaves little for High to escape from. Meteos did not want to commit for that because it easily would have been a kill traded back.
Again, a game where they try to keep Bjergsen down and get a kill for him.
And during that entire replay, Balls has been standing at the Cloud9 turret, hoping that TSM would get aggressive in this game.
Waiting for that ult, yeah.
They end up pinking a brush to get vision control, but they've already shown 3 in the bottom lane. If they're losing so much time, if Cloud9 doesn't make a kill or 2 out of this, and instead just trades turrets,
this becomes the impractical version of the home guard hacker room now. You wait for the fight to happen, and then you come flying in, but did not get the fight. A waste of time there, but they do get the turret, so the team does gain a bit of an advantage here. Dyrus is trying to get this wave cut before it even gets to the top turret, so giving a good bit of harass there, and TSM controls the top of the map quite well. Whoa!
My.
Flying through Lustboy, and is going to get the turn for Bjergsen onto High. Great communication there, and High, look, he wasn't even expecting that, and I think that's the problem.
That is the problem. There's a lapse in vision control from Cloud9. They spent 2 minutes trying to set up a gank in the bottom lane, not warding River. As soon as they did that, since TSM had abandoned the bot lane, Lustboy makes a completely unexpected play. Instead of basing, runs to mid lane, gets the gank for Bjergsen, and that is a very smart roam.
Yep. This one seems to be extended to more players of Team Solo Mid as well. It's not just the High focus that can seem to come back to bite them this time. They're working the advantage nicely. Smite goes off. Nicely done by Meteos to get that.
Yeah, he waited for the barrel to be max charge, smited with it. Very good secure there by Meteos. Critical in order for them to stay in this game, actually.
Yeah.
That they control some of their own objectives, because TSM has just been steamrolling them to this point, 13 minutes in.
Well, they know they have the advantage, so they're trying to create that pressure. Santorin, impressively, not afraid to do that all over the map. We already saw the early blue roams, And the double sights from him and Lustboy rather are going to allow them to keep doing that.
And if we're looking at this game, bigger picture, just the team comps, if this was actually even gold, even then, TSM, you could argue that they have a more team fight focused team composition. The tanky mid laner, the Sejuani ultimates that we've seen so critically, even the Kennen ultimate from Lustboy really locked down the potential one carry on this Cloud9 team. Cloud9 needs to actually kind of snowball ahead in this game so that their shields can help their tanks be enabled and that Sneaky can run in with all the cavalry basically that Cloud9 has put together. Losing this early game makes it more and more difficult. Unless they turn something around soon, they're going to be down 2-1.
Pretty good spike with the Triforce and the Manamune being finished up here for Bjergsen. He's charging that up quite well. Just about 340 on that. He was just over 20 minutes last time we saw him charging one of those on his Cogma. Lustboy and Turtle back to the top lane. It looks like they're going to start going for these turrets and see if they can get them dropped down. But Meteos looks like he's read this quite well, and it could actually play right into their hands.
Need to get some turret trades going down. Cloud9 in game 1, when they started falling behind early, was able to successfully trade objectives against TSM.
Yep.
Wherever TSM was, Cloud9 was on the other side of the map, and they were using their shove in that way. That game, though, they had pretty decent vision control. This game, it's somewhat lacking. Only defensive wards for Cloud9, meaning anytime they commit on a turret, they are putting themselves at risk.
Looks like they do call Santorin up. Still staying pretty safe. Kind of hard to dive at Kennen, but if you're outside the turret range, you don't have to dive at all. Turtle, a little too far out.
Great ultimate there by Meteos, and absolutely Turtle was too far out on that one. Could not even recover from getting knocked back with his Flash and his Valkyrie. Meteos stuffed it.
Flash and Valkyrie.
Whew. Big play there for Cloud9. Really big play.
That has been something we've seen before. Turtle getting himself a little too comfortable. Cloud9 is definitely going to take advantage. This turret should be going down. 50 seconds is perfect on the clock because they're going to want to go back, rotate to mid, and start getting more pressure on. But this is nice that they don't have to come back to this top lane too much anymore.
TSM trying to trade, though. Bjergsen actually walking through a turret to attack this Scion. 3-level
He's running.
disadvantage, and a great interrupt there by Dyrus.
It's still a big enough pop, right? Dyrus is going to get the sapling out, chase with the movement speed of his own, and it's not going to be enough before it explodes. Lustboy's coming down. It's only a matter of time now.
It's not so much will he die, but when will he die?
Right, and what is the team going to get out of it?
Exactly. They've already taken the mid lane turret, actually, in all of this. So very ineffective balls early on in the game, but effective enough to open up the mid lane for Cloud9.
All right, so he'll probably farm up what he can down there.
I'm still alive!
Nope, he's dead. All right, see where TSM goes from here. They know he's down. That's going to be great. 15 seconds for that teleport to come back up is something they do have to be wary of. But if they can burn this down, it's going to be theirs uncontested.
And I think it's pretty uncontestable at this point, especially with the Scion dead. And TSM burning very little to secure that kill. Dragons may be one of the things TSM needs to use to win this game. Cloud9 has kept the gold pretty close, but that's because miraculously they're up 3 turrets to 1. One thing TSM did in the early game is they slightly valued the CS and experience differential over turrets, but then, because Wild Turtle got caught in that top lane a little bit farther out than he needed to be, it punished them with the turret. Again, then they chase a kill for balls, punished with another turret, and suddenly the turrets are the only thing keeping Cloud9 in the game. But because TSM is still stronger as a 5-man unit, as long as they just maintain control and don't get picked off by a very threatening Meteos, they will kind of catapult themselves into a 3,000 or 4,000 gold advantage.
And I love the way they're building as well. Dyrus, he picked up the Catalyst. We could go Rod or Righteous Glory, which he likes, but then he just went Armor, knowing High's not going to be killing me. Sneaky's getting pretty big. I'm going to be able to be on Sneaky all day and just walk around the rest of Cloud9.
Usually when a Maokai goes Catalyst and doesn't upgrade to Rod of Ages right away, dead giveaway. Righteous Glory. Righteous Glory for Dyrus. They're going to rely heavily on Wild Turtle and Bjergsen for damage. Which, honestly, if High gets going a little bit on Lulu, would be a little bit low in the damage department. Not having big damage from their top laner, Sejuani and Kennen, since it's not an AP Kennen, it's just a jungle Sejuani, could be shieldable damage from Cloud9 in teamfights.
Turtle getting as much of the resources to go down in his favor as possible before he takes down this turret. But this just means that TSM knows what they want right now. The rest of the team isn't going to get themselves to do a crazy fight, and they are just biding their time before they do get what they want. Cloud9, however, has squeaked themselves through that river area. Has a nice line of wards behind TSM's front line, which could prove useful here. TSM not on that side of the map, though, and C9's wards not really working too well. They're telling him TSM isn't there at this point, but not where they are, that's for sure. Luckily, none of them have died in that 3-man excursion TSM took into the jungle. Dyrus grabs top, and the game continues now.
So much vision in Cloud9's jungle right now. You can tell TSM is kind of prepping the picks, but Cloud9 is nowhere near that spot. Really strange series of events right there. But the turrets have equalized, as we said.
Kills less and less throughout each game here. We're at least 5-5 at this point last game. 30 seconds on to Baron. We saw teams heading for that just a few minutes after it spawned last time. Enough core items as well to make this go down quite quick. Infinity Edge is finished up onto Sneaky.
Yeah, we need to...
1,200 gold as well.
Yeah, need to look at the power spikes here. Sneaky trying to farm this one out. Very typical of him to sit on an Avarice Blade for a long time. Wild Turtle with Trinity Force and BF is very strong right now. When Last Whisper gets completed onto Bjergsen, he's really going to take off because that could sync with his Manamune transforming. Additionally, Dyrus finishes Frozen Heart, which is huge to match what Balls has. And overall, I think TSM is hitting more power spikes than Cloud9 has right now. But 3 turrets to 3 is actually not the perfect opportunity for forcing, unless they can use these wards that they've placed in Cloud9's red jungle to catch somebody out.
I think Meteos is going back, buys a Righteous Glory outright with about 1,500. High still sitting on a bit of gold. Over the past few minutes, Cloud9 was sitting on at least 4,000 to 5,000 gold across the board. So it was a good thing that they did not get caught up in a fight here by Team Solo Mid. But that has been something Cloud9 is strong at, is dancing around their opponent. Right there, we do see a bit of the trade and how much damage has been built up. We haven't actually gotten to see these guys use these spikes yet.
Well, there goes Lulu ult. That was fast. High really thinking that there were more people there. Shows you how little Cloud9 knows about the map right now.
It also goes to show you how much they're in his head.
Yeah. He thinks he's going to get killed as soon as he gets targeted right now. This is huge for TSM. They love this 5-man group in the mid-game trying to push down this turret with poke, and they know there's no Lulu ult. Tons of poke.
Waiting on that next wave, slowly creeping up behind them. Still a bit of wave clear to come from that Sivir and Kragus. They're not going to have any trouble with that. Lulu as well throwing a Glitter Lance if any minions stand tall after all of that clear. TSM are going to have a tough time here. They may have to force this one.
They could, if they go soon, they could get it before the Lulu ult, but honestly, they're not getting enough poke down to warrant a dive.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Wild Turtle does have the strength of the level 2 ultimate on Corki right now. Bjergsen does have the strength of the Last Whisper, but they're just not locking on to the right things, and they end up not being able to get anything done. They can ward around and position for Dragon 3. That's what they'll have to do.
Just about 300 gold. High will have that Rabadon's able to put out a bit more and maybe change the mind of Turtle in some of these fights, and Lustboy if he can cancel them out. It's going to be difficult for them. The Lulu pickup did not make things easy for this game for Cloud9.
Hasn't yet. He's been heavily punished by Bjergsen in the laning phase, which is what we expected to happen a lot in this series.
True.
If High could somehow split with Bjergsen in every game, Cloud9 may actually be the favorites in this series. But that's why Bjergsen is the most valuable player.
Yeah.
He demolishes his lane opponents routinely. And it's a 1,000 gold lead thus far. It's the pressure, though, that is being applied on the map from that mid lane position and the denial of High's farm that they hope to create the most advantages off of.
Well, it's hard to shut down the MVP. Definitely is.
Yeah.
See if we can get a little action.
Oh, here we go again.
Mid lane. Oh, curve it! Curve it! Ah! Yeah! That's pretty good aim, though.
Well,
got it well. So
Again,
what can they do this time?
This is the old Cloud9
this
play.
excursion.
Balls tries to run away, distract as much time as possible, whereas Cloud9 is actually making a play on the other side of the map.
Yeah, they are. Top turret. Dyrus is getting hit up, and there's much more catch potential on the tree here to be cut down. The stun bot of Lustboy comes in, though.
My.
This is why you don't dive a cannon. It gets a little too hard. Lustboy's going crazy right now, and alone saves Dyrus.
2 deaths across the map there for Cloud9. Balls eventually fell, and then, my goodness, the ultimate there. Dyrus, home guard, he's going.
It's going to be right in front of the bear pit. On too high. The glitter lance didn't actually connect all the way. That's going to be the swap as well. High only has a matter of time here before he goes down. It's not going to be Cloud9 that's closing in. It's more members of Team Solo Mid.
Disaster there for Cloud9. TSM doesn't take the trade.
No.
They steal it all from Cloud9. Balls dies in one lane, the dive fails in the other, and desperately Cloud9 wants to stop this Baron, but that's a tall order.
Meteos, he is there for the 50-50. That's really the only thing that stands. TSM will call off of it. Meteos has no chance to go over the wall now. He's going to be 1v1. Turtle throws his head into the shell and just ducks into the fight. Somehow pops out alive on the other side.
Sneaky's
Meteos
here
throws
now.
the barrel. Turtle does finally go down. Sneaky's going to start throwing the boomerang blades into the pit. That's the early smite, and Dyrus actually comes up with it. That could have been very bad for Team Solo Mid.
What chaos, but at the end of the day, they only lose Wild Turtle and they secure the Baron, so mission accomplished for TSM. They get the Baron and they extend their gold lead. Such a chaotic end to what was such a clean series of events there for TSM.
Sneaky running down. Dyrus is saying, you're not getting this dragon alone. It looks like Dyrus is actually going to try and start this if he realizes that Sneaky's too far. So good plays by Team Solo Mid, really repairing what was going on around the map. It looked like Cloud9 had everything instantly turned in favor of TSM there with a quick act from Lustboy.
Well, TSM had that amazing lead from the early game, and it's all about transitioning that into the mid and late game.
Yeah.
And they have been doing so. Cloud9 held on for a bit with some objective trades, but as soon as those trades go wrong, the whole building falls down, right? The cracks show, and it's a collapse. That's basically what's happened here for Cloud9. They were so far behind early game. As soon as they make one mistake in a rotation, TSM goes to crush them. They're trying really hard to get back in this game because it is desperation time right now.
His ultimate just came up, but I don't think they wanted the fight. Slicing Maelstrom will not be used here. Dyrus, the martyr of the fight. He says, guys, leave me. I will be okay. They do pick up, Sneaky picks that one up with 3 assists on the team. I'm not sure TSM is too worried about that just now. They have some room to work with here. A 5,000 going on 6,000 gold lead in just 100. And they have been playing it quite strong.
The longer Cloud9 can keep the waves pushed out, the less they have to worry about the Baron buff that TSM has. Ideally, Cloud9 doesn't want to lose their second-tier turrets here, so they want to stay on the offensive, but they're just not that strong. They have a numbers advantage at the moment, so if they can catch someone from TSM, that's the play.
Elixir of Wrath for Bjergsen. He loves those elixirs. His Mirror Mana finished up a little bit ago, so he's going to be outputting quite a bit of damage. And really great plays. You can definitely see the confidence from Team Solo Mid's play. That was obviously a call from Dyrus. Nobody was like, Dyrus, you're half health, quick teleport in. He was probably saying, I'm home guarded, I can still make this work.
Immediately.
Let's make it happen. Immediately.
He didn't even wait to heal the full.
Exactly.
Because he saw the play right away. First off, he survives and makes a great flash over the wall. Secondly, he comes up big. He's really performing. I mean, of all people, Charlie, the Cloud9 coach, said Dyrus would step up in this series. If TSM is to win, it needs to happen. Well, TSM is winning this game, and Dyrus has stepped up.
It is true. What was Dyrus doing to Ackerman when they went to playoffs last year, right? Getting a little too excited. Even the team said, Dyrus, you need to calm down. You're throwing us off our game because you're so crazy. Here, again, he's just being a rock that TSM needs. Doesn't need to go crazy, just needs to be consistent, and that's what they're getting. 3 dragons now as we're 27 minutes into the game, a 7-3 lead. It just seems like TSM really, as you've said before, Jack, prides themselves on fixing their mistakes in a best-of-5 series and being able to just come out on top.
Yeah, the Urgot first pick, very huge here. Elixir consumed for Bjergsen. Urgot's Wrath now going to be attacking this next turret. Baron buff is up though, so I think that's about as far as this push goes.
Sneaky trying to do his damnedest to get a mid push going down. Second tier turret falls. He's got one hit on that siege minion, and it looks
how'd
just
Sneaky get
enough time to keep going on this inhibitor turret. This is going to be the stop backs now coming in. Dyrus should be able to get there. He has home guard, but that inhibitor turret's going down. TSM's actually going to take the fight as well. Lustboy to the back line, but that's not damage. That's the stun bot. Cloud9 walks out, and they might still have the defense.
TSM is trying to hit a home run here by getting an ace, but they're giving up their front door right now. How did Sneaky make it all the way to that side of the map
home run
with no TSM response? Cloud9 takes an inhibitor with this. 3 kills, no dragons, and Sneaky does it. He might even get out alive.
Absolutely amazing. Home run definitely curved foul right at the last second there for TSM. Swinging for the fences, and it fell right in front of him. So
just
now
go back to base. No need to engage. Man, big time play by Cloud9. Still down, 7,000 gold, but that buys them a lot of time. Tons of time.
Very much so. For being on the back foot, it was interesting to see that mind game there they played with Team Solo Mid. TSM said, oh, they're engaging. They're going to go way too far. And that's exactly when Cloud9 pulled back. And that's where you want to be, in the head of your opponents. Keeps Cloud9 in a very good fight, and somehow grabbing an inhibitor, 7,000 gold down.
Yeah, plus all the free farm that Sneaky got while pushing multiple waves there. 284 CS now on Sivir, 3 major items. If they can somehow protect him up, maybe in an extended team fight, Cloud9 can pull something around. We kind of knew that was the win condition for Cloud9. Get Sneaky ahead, get the shields going. If TSM doesn't build enough damage into the non-Urgot and Corki members, then maybe Sneaky can AoE people down in a team fight. And that is a stronger maybe now that Sneaky's been able to do that.
Very true. Also see a Rylai's Crystal Scepter picked up here on Lustboy. One of the only times I might say it's okay. You're not the guy going in to kill.
Are they trying to fight?
It looks like it. That was on the hunt. Balls comes through, rings the dinner bell for Bjergsen. Now, Lustboy goes in. That's going to be the Rylai slowing C9 to re-enter the fight, as well as Dyrus. Vengeful Maelstrom mitigating all the damage that the front line has taken. Lustboy finally falls after the fight has already been extended to a long one. Balls now to the back line. He goes down. With Lustboy down, that means TSM still has damage on the map, and they're going to push forward.
Cloud9 must have seen the window, seeing Dyrus is off on the side, but he could easily teleport in for that fight. A poor force there by Cloud9. Losing their front line in that battle. Cloud9 did not have the lead to be willing to force like that with the silent off. They end up losing a turret afterwards.
This is good. Do they stop it, though? Do they stop the backs? Oh, it's already Santorin in the base. No worries. The minions will be stopped before they get to the Nexus turret. Still looks like Lemon wants to put a little bit of pressure on to get as much as they can out of this one. It's not going to be much more than just the pressure.
I mean, at least they have those super minions in the mid lane, so...
Right, a little bit of time.
Cloud9 should only force like that if the super minions are going to be taking something from the TSM base, or if TSM has a base defender that is trapped there. A questionable fight for Cloud9. It's actually been one of their Achilles heels throughout the year, is just taking some really aggressive fights when they're really far down in goal.
Right.
It didn't used to be a problem for Cloud9 because they were never
the fight.
They were never behind in games.
Right.
And what is happening? They're going for, oh my god, Balls is the human distraction right now. They're going for Baron. Balls is trying to pressure the base.
They can keep Bjergsen out of that. He's going to have to stay and fight the whole time. Kai may go down, or rather, Balls is going to go down in this situation, but Bjergsen's far away. Santorin flies through. There's the Glacial Prison. Lemonation won't stand long. Neither will Balls. Kai has already fallen in the fight, and it is going to be a Team Solo Mid ace on Cloud9 at the Baron pit.
Some incredibly questionable decision-making by Cloud9 right there. Trying to 4v4 force a Baron. Just the fact that they can trade a useless Scion for a useful Urgot does not mean the other 4 members can 4v4 at Baron right there. Lustboy lands a beautiful ultimate, and the entire Cloud9 team gets wiped.
They've just given themselves so much breathing room. Rinse and repeat. You're obviously not going to get a double turret push with an inhibitor, but you just did what you need to replicate. Wait for them to push too hard and figure out a way to get around that fight and flank them. Oh, man. Lustboy playing with death.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous series of events right there. Cloud9...
Yeah, over and over.
Cloud9 made one good play, which was the inhibitor take, but they followed it up with 2 poor choices. And TSM is, again, in full control of this Game 3. Now, with Baron, Ace, their inhibitor should be respawning soon, and the ability to probably close this game.
Another 6 minutes as well. Aspect of the Dragon is theirs. That's only going to make it harder for Cloud9 to do anything in this game. 3 frozen hearts built up to make the fights even harder, and we'll see this big scuffle once again.
Yeah, I mean, this was just Dyrus being a tank, coming in beforehand.
Nice.
A nice ultimate there by Santorin. Not spectacular, just hits the front line, but that's all they needed to do because TSM as a 4-man unit are stronger than Cloud9 as his 4-man unit, especially since Cloud9 had been hitting Baron. And now TSM pushing up that mid lane with the Baron minions.
Big fan of those Lustboy ultimates, how he uses the outside of the ring. That change to his W is very big. TSM now gonna fly through on this one. The swap for balls, he gets taken down immediately and really provides no threat to anybody on the team. Even Cloud9 knows they cannot try to get any extra pressure on with that distraction. Great third game coming in here from Team Solo Mid. They definitely used momentum from Game 2 to make this one work.
Well, they're not even waiting for minions here. A little bit greedy, but they are so strong. Cloud9 recognizes the greed, tries to fight.
That's the Sivir ultimate. Lemonation goes down. Dyrus is gigantic right now. The main tank on that turret the entire time, and he gets out alive. Turtle and Dyrus are bleeding red, but the base is open, and TSM's about to tear it down.
They just got to go catch that minion wave in the mid lane. They have 4 people dead on Cloud9. Balls coming up shortly. 2 people to defend here for Cloud9, but 5 pushing for TSM.
34 minutes on the clock. The first Nexus turret will fall as Team Solo Mid pushes their advantage here. Very nicely done coming into Game 3 with the Urgot composition out of the mid lane. Bjergsen again on a 5-0-8, a great KDA to bring the team up for a victory.
Team fights and work off of their strengths that way. They're getting too crushed in the early game right now. They need to identify what's happening in that jungle so Meteos does not get shut out of the game.
We definitely saw the picks come into play for this one, and the champion pool is getting squeezed out to the last drop. We'll see if it affects Cloud9 going into the next game as well. To share their insights into TSM's second series win, let's toss it over to the analyst desk.
Thank you, gentlemen. I want to touch on exactly what Jat was talking about right there. This C9 found success in Game 1 with Meteos on Sejuani, able to make plays. He is a clutch player. Not that his Gragas play has been, incredibly subpar, but I think the Sejuani fits a little bit better with the idea that they need to be winning team fights. Yeah, that's how they're going to win this series.
The difference is Sejuani is an easier team fight champion, but Gragas has a little bit more early game pressure and a little bit more of a jungle bully for fighting.
Yeah, but the thing is, even though you have early pressure leads, well, guess what? It's a lane swap, so you're not getting a lot of gank pressure. Any jungler fits the bill in this kind of situation.
And then it comes down to the team fights.
Yeah, or when the ganks come in, Bjergsen outplays them anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're prioritizing Gragas and not getting anything out of the pick when they could be getting things out of Sejuani. The casters said it. Santorin is repeatedly out-farming Meteos here, yeah. My brain went Maokai. I'm like, that's not the person. He's not named that. But yeah, and I mean, the funny thing is, this is what Meteos is known for. Was he was the big farm jungler back in 2013, and yet he's not fitting the bill anymore.
When your lanes are feeling so much pressure across the board, you feel like you have to make moves. You have to show up middle, or else it's going to get ganked.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though, was like Meteos is showing up places, but he keeps showing up in the same place over and over. Okay, yeah, he ganked Bjergsen the one time, and it barely failed. That was really close. He probably made the right choice here, but only once have we seen a matchup where there was actually kill pressure on Dyrus, which is Maokai into Lulu. Lulu is squishy. Maokai's point and click CC. Great. Next time around, Maokai into Sion. You're not going to kill Shield Max Sion. Next time around, Sion into Maokai. You're still not going to kill that guy, and yet they still gank Dyrus. And, like, look, you get him off the Lulu, and you put him under a turret, and you're not going to kill this tanky champion that Dyrus is playing. And C9's, like their goal coming into the game is just not a good goal.
Yeah, again, I wasn't particularly fond of the team composition here by Cloud9. Sion Gragas, okay, that's a fine front line. Gragas has some playmaking ability, the ability to disengage as well. Braum, Sivir, Lulu, where's the damage on this team?
Sivir.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like you're hyper carry, 80 carry Sivir, right? Like I feel if you're like Sneaky has proven that he can be a hyper carry. So if you're gonna put him in the position, like if you're gonna tell him he needs to do that, put him on a champion that makes it a bit easier for him.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, like, there's a world in which this works. I tend to agree in like 99% of situations, Sivir's a terrible pick. In terms of running like a big bruiser team, which is what this is, right? Braum plus 2 more tanks, a bunch of short-range champions. It was Urgot over in game 1, almost the same comp. It's like, let's just make a really big, compact, short-range comp where Ricochet hits everyone. Yeah. And I just have a 2.1 AD ratio entire team nuke. That's by Ricochet, by the way, if you guys were wondering. That's pretty good, and then Sivir can actually start chunking people down, but right, it's not a Luden Zeko in the Lulu. Like, obviously, is it a... Or it's not even a Rod of Ages Maokai, because they're playing Sion here, so yeah. I mean, the team runs out of damage. A lot of weight in with Sivir's shoulders. It's pretty hard for it to lift that weight, so yeah, I don't really like it either.
You know, next up on the list here, we've got Lustboy playing Kennen again, showing he doesn't need to play with the Kalista in order to be effective. And again, this will call into question the 2 support bans by Cloud9, as Lustboy has said, fine, at this point, keep throwing them at me. I will play Kennen. He still has Annie. We haven't seen that come out yet. So I would look for Cloud9 to pivot away from those support bans this time around and throw them at somebody else.
Well, I said it before this game. It's like, look, blue side is not very important unless you're actually pitching something usefully, right? And right now, it's like, okay, well, first pick Urgot. Okay, cool. That's actually an advantage for blue side. Good job, TSM, for using that. But Cloud9, right, they're sending all these bans at Lustboy and then not actually taxing him for it, right? If, like, I could replay this champ select in BC9, it would be, look, ban away like 2 of the junglers. If they first pick Urgot, I get the only good tank jungler left. Like, I get Sedge, you don't get Gragas, or vice versa. One of these things has to exist. But C9 aren't doing that. They're like, yeah, you first picked, and we punished you by taking one of the 2 junglers left up that everyone cares about. By the way, Sejuani is 3-0 in this series, and C9 gives that one away. Like, it just doesn't make sense, like, what the plan is here.
You could pinch junglers really hard.
Of course you can.
You could get Sejuani, Gragas, you could pick the Nunu first, or be like, oh, he plays a good Zac as well, and force Santorin onto a B-tier champion.
Right.
He might go with the Rek'Sai. He has played a good Nidalee, but that's the thing, is Santorin's so versatile that he can thrive on those champions.
Right, definitely looking for Cloud9 to make some strong pivots going into this next game. TSM, though, I want to look back at them because they're now finding success in this series. And as we mentioned before, in general, best of 5 series, they're really confident going into them. They're okay dropping the first game. They're going to use that to motivate. They're going to learn something about their opponents, and they're going to push through in the following games. They've now won the next 2, right? What changed? 1. What changed specifically that is allowing them to beat Cloud9 now? And then 2, what do they do here in Game 4 to close out the series?
Well, what they did in that first game where they had a lead, and they were able to lead early game, and then Cloud9 came back, right? They ended up pushing that lead even further this game, shutting down balls really hard, putting that team on tilt, and forcing them to make situations where it's like Sneaky has to backdoor an inhibitor. They went for team fights. So they're playing against a high wave clear composition with a low wave clear. Only Corki's really ranged wave clear here with the Urgot. And I assume that's what the Lulu was for on C9's side, was to counter that. But the fact that TSM is going for the team fights, as soon as they see the opening, they're forcing it. They're like, oh, Sneaky is not with the team. Start a fight. Start a fight as much as you can against this composition. So it's the team fights that I feel like they adapted from and moved away from disengage and went, we're the ones starting the fights. And that's why Sejuani, I think, is so good in this series.
Yeah, the hardcore engage is working, and just having a team that can actually just alpha people down. Right, C9, they won the game when they played Rod of Ages Maokai. I think, again, that was a very smart choice for that game. Braum built the run fast item. Yeah, Righteous Glory. They had a Sivir anyway, run fast item. Great. But right, they built 80 ability power on Maokai, who's going to go in there, absorb some damage, pop the ulti. There's extra damage coming out. Urgot's good front loaded damage. Sivir, good front loaded damage. and they alpha people out. That's the kind of style that has been working so far. Luden's Echo Kog'Maw eventually scaled up, alpha down the backline when a Sejuani ultimate hit. Seems like a bunch of burst at the very start is important. And then second to that, what C9 should adapt, though, is also their overall game plan. They're not killing Dyrus on tanks. Go try to kill Wild Turtle and Lustboy. Go try to actually gank Sneaky's lane when he's in the 2-on-2. Make those plays happen. If you're going for the Gragas, then actually use him to gank these important lanes.
All right, Cloud9, they found success in Game 1. We'll see if they can find it again in Game 4. Keep it tuned right here because TSM are just one game away from reclaiming North America's top spot. Our championship finals between Cloud9 and Team Solo Mid continue after this.
It's at 2-1 in favor of Team Solo Mid now, and they just need one more win to defend their championship title. It's going to be a messy game 4, I believe.
Yeah, we look at the way this series has been going, and it's probably mostly a correlation, but Sejuani is 3-0 against Gragas. Meteos had that 5-man Sejalt in Game 1 that completely turned the tides, but since then, Santorin has been out-farming Meteos' Gragas in the jungle on Sejuani and ultimately limiting Meteos' ability to impact and carry the game. The other guy that has been showing up for TSM is actually Dyrus. He's been able to stay on an island for the most part, not die to heavy attention from Meteos and balls when it happens, play the early lane swaps well, and that 5.8 KDA in 3 games is nearly double what his KDA was in the regular season. Dyrus definitely stepping up for TSM here when it matters most.
Yeah, he's definitely pulling out the stops, his own plays as well, and not being reactive to team calls. We saw that teleport last game be very pivotal in controlling the push that he almost died in and then teleported back in half HP. So it'll be really interesting to see TSM keeps that momentum, like you even said, passing the, I think it was Reginald in the hallway, he said, yeah, we'll lose first one, but the next three, we're good to go.
That is the classic TSM move at this point in a best of 5. I really wonder whether Cloud9 is going to switch up their bans here. They've been putting 2 bans at Lustina or Lust Boy.
Yeah, can't see him.
I mean, with the first ban Thresh, it looks like that third ban could be Janna. I'm hoping that their third ban is on a jungler here so that they can either force Team Solo Mid to ban the other one, or they can deny, because they're really trading Sejuani and Gragas here, and there they go. They do ban the Urgot and the Gragas.
Perfect. So here's the thing as well. I feel like Cloud9 needs to win Champion Select to win the game altogether. With Santorin and Bjergsen both coming off perfect games last game, 508 for Bjergsen, Santorin 1014. They are riding very high and not much can stop them. Even on level play, you're going to have to play better. TSM right now is just getting all the advantages they want. Nautilus is the advantage for Lemon. He finally gets to pick that up in the series.
I liked what happened here where by Cloud9 banning one jungler, they necessitated the ban from Team Solo Mid on the other main power jungler. Gragas and Sej are the 2 main power junglers on this patch for these 2 teams. Therefore, Team Solo Mid had to drop one of their bans, which unlocks Lemon Nation to play Nautilus. Really nice stuff here.
What will it be? Because this actually puts a lot of pressure on the junglers now. They've been able to just sit back on Sej and Gragas. Now it's different.
Nunu is the team fighting jungler. Vi is the denial jungler here because Meteos and Santorin have both kind of carried games. I'm surprised that Santorin didn't kind of leave this to later. His Nidalee has been off the charts good in a lot of these games. And instead of doing a reactive pick, they just preemptively say, Meteos, nope, you're not going to carry this one on Vi. Making sure Santorin plays it.
Well, that also means High has to be careful in his pick. So far, they just go for the Zac and the safety of Sivir as well for Sneaky once again.
I like it.
Very comfortable with those pickups. Kalista Cannon, no second thought about that one as Bjergsen locks that in for Lustboy.
No Janna today for Lustboy. His cannon has been so effective.
It really has.
Stopping turret dives, ganking mid, has not been punched all in lane. His laning has been very strong on it. Really just a solid pick for him to pick up. Normally it's Lemon Nation who's picking up the newer support picks, but this time Lustboy beats him to the punch.
Wow, the fast lock. He goes back to his Zed, something he went towards very much so at the end of the split. Almost had 3 or 4 games in a row on that Zed before people started taking it away from him again. And the Vladimir, again, it's going to be locked in for balls now.
Zed not typically something you play into a team-fighting tanky team, but looking at TSM's composition, since they banned away the main jungle tanks, they banned away the main tank mid laner and Urgot, and they're looking at that, TSM has 3 squishy people already. What do? What's the question? Pick an assassin, classic Cloud9.
Yeah, mid lane Deer, do it. But if he plays Nadu Deer, then he's not mid lane Deer, and we're okay. What will High
of all the champions to hover, why would
rather say Bjergsen decide? Watch Bjergsen take that, and he does play Janna. Ooh, the Cho'Gath.
They got to go with something tanky in the mid lane, so High can't assassinate it. Silence as well is awesome against Zed. This is a smart pick here for Bjergsen.
Really locks it out. High maybe thinking he can just kill Lustboy whenever he wants since he doesn't focus that Zanya's, but you got to be careful. Fade's Call will also save that. A lot of very tricky plays and untargetable people here to come into this game. The Vladimir pickup is going to balls. Most likely We'll see that coming out of the top lane. He should definitely be able to do very well in the 2v1 here as Vlad. We'll see if they play that any different here.
Yeah, I like this. This is really something different than what's been happening in this series.
I was about to say, Cloud9 hasn't done that yet.
I didn't like Cloud9's bans last game because they mimicked Game 1 bans in a series that had momentum slightly for Team Solo Mid. It was proven that Team Solo Mid was going to be winning with the same pick bans. Time to change it up. Because of that, Cloud9 gets a classic composition. CC from the support jungle role, damage from everybody else. And it puts them in a comfort zone, hopefully, against TSM, who is now moved off a little bit. Bjergsen on Shogath, not the biggest playmaker.
Right.
He actually lost to Cloud9 on Shogath in the final game of the regular season. And this is a pick and ban that could set us up for Game 5, unless TSM makes an outplay, in my opinion.
The trophy. Taking a look on at the games, wondering whose house it will be in at the end of the day. And right now it's looking like Team Solo Mids as they've been coming out strong. But like you said, Cloud9 deciding to switch things up in the bans and now hopefully coming out with a composition that'll trick TSM. Let us know who you think has the edge going into Game 4. Send either hashtag C9win or hashtag TSMwin to @LOL Esports and we will tally your votes up throughout the game. Very interested to see this Bjergsen Cho'Gath pickup. He can really wreak havoc or just be a nuisance in the mid lane with that. How will High coordinate his ganks, his attacks as well? Definitely leads into a game where Cloud9 can kind of go to their 1-3-1 if they want to start getting a split push on. It's a real good way they spread their enemy out thin and start to pick them off.
How much of a factor will Santorin be on Vi as well?
That's great. We got two different junglers coming in for the entire series now.
Pretty big factor already. Look at those recall animations.
Absolutely dancing around. Still going.
Yeah. So, biggest change that Cloud9 needs to make early on is figure out what they want to do with this early jungle, because they got outplayed last game. The supports have been making very aggressive invades on the side where they think the enemy jungle is starting, but this game more than ever, we actually have the most defensive wards we've had yet. So scouting where someone is going to start the jungle becomes increasingly difficult. It looks like TSM may end up guessing it properly. For Lustboy, he's going to be trying to invade this Cloud9 start. Now, will Cloud9 start at blue buff, or will they start at Gromp and then transition to blue buff? If they do the latter and Lustboy invades quickly, they may have some issues taking the blue buff. We'll have to track this because Lemon Nation is also in position to harass the TSM jungle.
He has not taken a skill just yet. We'll probably head in with that Riptide so he can get a bit of AoE and slow for the harass and no chase. Here we see Lustboy making his way over. Oh.
It's a mid lane move that a lot of people use with Makai. And Lemon, well, there's some early harass from both these guys. What a monster. Santorin doesn't have Smite.
He's also playing it perfectly. Dyrus now being the one to be in front of that. Santorin's going to have to walk right out of this one. And what a job by Lemon Nation. Repeats again. Can the same thing happen over here? No! It's actually High who already came out. A flash goes down and they know that's enough to return and hit that lane later. They're not going to try to pressure it.
As he comes right back despite not having flash.
The fearless Kennen.
Man, so this is why TSM has been banning all this. For one, Lemon Nation's level 1 harass in the jungle. That's the best support for level 1 harass. This time as well, Cloud9 makes a nice adaptation. High actually foregoes a little bit of experience in the mid lane to help them take at least 2 camps during the double jungle, whereas Santorin still sitting on level 1 3 minutes into the game. So this time, successful jungle denial. Meteos will be ahead of Santorin early on.
This will be the test now. If Santorin can get through this jungle, he's definitely been able to fix all the problems that any LCS player would put him up against in the early game. Did it last game quite effectively. Meteos going very, very low. Gets his smite out at the last second there. Get the level, get his help.
Yeah. Now, the other problem that happened for Cloud9 in the last game, side lane wave control. The second thing they have to do to get out of this early game properly. It's a very similar start to last game, so that's why you have to directly compare these things. Will Dyrus be able to soak experience? Doesn't look like it. The wave is actually being frozen against him properly this time, so Dyrus should be denied. Balls, it's not all sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows up there either.
Nope.
He is also getting denied 0 CS and no CS close either.
I don't think Vlad likes those kind of things anyways. It's just not the type. He is going to head into the jungle, however. Seems like they're going to do a little double jungling here to make sure Meteos can keep himself at a good rate of getting through the jungle. He wants to stay very much ahead of Santorin here and give him no chance to come back. Hai is already back, brings 2 long swords to the lane now, 24 to 22. Looks like Santorin's actually going to be staying here now, so Hai may be able to get some good trade damage down being up in that lane.
Yeah.
A little bit of armor for Bjergsen. Keep him safe.
Pretty good start, all things told, for Cloud9. Nice early jungle harass. The jungle upgrade for Meteos first. Hai sticking with Bjergsen early, and the threat of supporter jungler gank is diminished because Lustboy's flash was burned during harassment, and Santorin was destroyed early on in the jungle. Therefore, Hai gets to play somewhat aggressive against Bjergsen's Cho'Gath.
It'll be nice for him at least this game. He has been definitely on the back foot for Bjergsen. All the ganks have been going at Hai, making sure to shut him down. We'll see what the Freedom provides for him this time. Right now, they're getting a nice steal over here on the blue. Make it out quite easily as well. Good focus here from Cloud9 to put something on the plate early. Shouldn't really affect Bjergsen too much, as he can just stay in that lane and keep regenning with his passive. Even CS all around. Still watching how Meteos is getting himself through, though. No CS for balls just yet.
Yeah, big wave hitting the turret up top for Cloud9. They're going to give that up in order to get the Dragon on their side. Be interesting to see if TSM can finish off that turret, and also whether Sneaky will push the bottom lane, because it looks like Cloud9 is holding the freeze for longer. And that means they would not be able to trade a turret if that happens.
Yeah, quite a bit of damage. 10% on that top turret. Ooh, he thought he was going to have the bite, but Hai got out of range. He couldn't see him. He stays, though. Dyrus is the one to come in. The flash twist in advance to pick up first blood. There's the knockup from Rupture, but no follow-up damage after everything has been expent. Lemonation puts himself in a very bad situation. The anchor toss will come back up
late
quicker
flash
with hitting that terrain, but I don't think he's going to be able to get out. He was in a bad spot, and the error calculated by Team Solo Mid.
Pretty big error there by Lemonation.
Yeah.
That's the second poor flash he has had in this series. First one being where he flashed directly behind a Scion ultimate and still died. So, big time moves for TSM there. Bjergsen specifically hitting level 6 as he hit the Rupture, forcing the double flash there in the mid lane. And second game in a row where Dyrus gets first blood. That is so key when he is getting denied in these lane swaps to be 5 CS. 7 minutes into the game, but to have that first blood kill puts him a good 600 gold ahead of Balls' Vladimir at this point in the game.
What a collapse there by TSM. Their communication is definitely on point, where it seems it took a few seconds there for C9 to really act. See if they can keep it going. It's only very, very early in the game. We still have plays here to be possibly made by Hai carrying from the mid. Sneaky and Lemon back to lane, and that vote swayed way back in the favor of TSM.
Monster plays in the mid lane right there, picking up 2 kills off of pretty much nothing. They just kind of appeared in the mid lane. Bjergsen landed all of his skill shots. Dyrus arrived at the right time. TSM is 1 game away from winning the North American LCS Spring Split.
See how they do now. All these lanes are matched back up, so Balls and Dyrus are going to be able to farm themselves quite nicely. And that is big for Balls, as he was pretty much getting nothing in the beginning of this game. Still paying attention to how Cloud9 is taking these buffs. So far hasn't really impacted the game. Bjergsen still was able to get something out of mid lane. So C9 is kind of fighting their own battles that aren't giving them results just yet.
Yeah, and already they have to come back from behind. Which they did in game 1 to their credit, but a 2,000 gold lead 8 minutes in is actually rather large. Callista Cannon as well has a lot of kill threat. If Lustboy can get experience. He's level 3 on Cannon right now. So, not worried about that yet for a while.
You see the AD carries and you think it's soon, but nope, the supports, they've been roaming all day. What will be the play in the bottom lane? Lemon Nation walks away for just a second and cannot be continued by Sneaky as he wants to wear those Ren stacks off before heading back into the fight. Smartly done as well. Not too many core items coming out, just the first of recipes around the map as well. BF swords for the 80 carries, that Cutlass, and the Fiendish Codex for the mid laners. Oh, there's a great trade.
Yeah, nice little trade back there by Cloud9. Revenge for Wild Turtle's damage on Sneaky. This time Lustboy could no longer enter a fight safely. Sneaky been the bright spot for Cloud9 this series. Even in the games they're losing, he's able to make some clutch plays. They're really going to need him to do well here as Balls will take a long time to ramp up on Vladimir.
Literally almost killing Wild Turtle there. Yeah, well, with the time they're giving themselves, they have a lot of breathing room to stay down here. Farm this one out. We'll see how much turret damage they try to put on this one as Balls gets all the time to farm this in the top lane. You can see he wasn't having the easiest time against Dyrus, but he was also letting his lane push because he didn't have a turret.
High even trying to roam down there for a potential dive, but because he actually got spotted by a pink ward without checking the brush, there's a chance that TSM is waiting for High to return.
Well, they're definitely pushing his lane, making sure he has to take control of it once again. At least getting something to work there.
Even under the turret, those guys are tanky enough that if High gets in range for a Maokai W, he would die.
At this point, he definitely has to be careful. I wouldn't put it past Dyrus and Bjergsen to go in for that anyways. Coming from the bottom side, Lustboy thinks it's something they can get as well. He looks to actually just show himself right in the mid lane for a bit of pressure. Not real ganking. Great damage coming out of Maokai here in the early game. Dyrus again going for the 2-ring build. Could be right into that Righteous Glory once again.
Probably.
Once you extend it already.
Yeah, it's true. Seems to be what TSM wants to go for the initiation potential.
Yep.
It's actually, I'd say, the more common Maokai now.
Yeah.
Is the Righteous Glory rather than the Rod of Ages.
It's weird. You don't think it'll work the same, and you're like, wow, this is actually really great.
I'm really fast and super tanky. All right.
All right, so good pressure here in the mid. I like that Bjergsen has turned off those Vorpal spikes to make sure he doesn't grab any silly aggro as it
High's in trouble here.
by.
Shadow down and Rupture
Oh,
lands.
Rupture does hit right after Shadow comes, but they also know seems a little too quiet here on the home front. Maybe not. Bjergsen wants to go in. Over the wall comes Meteos, but he's quickly punched in the jaw as he bounces around from Santorin. Looks like they should be able to grab this with a big wave coming.
Yeah, they got a big wave. Cloud9 still a little bit dangerous. High, flash back.
Whoa, all the way back to High. That's going to be the hit out as well. Fate's Call chucks Lustboy back in. He's going to die, throwing down Flash and Exhaust in that one.
Oh,
and TSM
no.
finding a bit of what they want here. 2 kills already, and Balls was almost in the wrong spot there at the right time for TSM.
2-for-1 trade and the turret there. Sneaky was trying to farm off in the bottom lane. Now trying to come in on the backside of this fight. He's got to be incredibly careful.
Nope, thought he was going to let Fizzle out.
May as well just take the dragon.
Might as well. So, Cloud9 definitely has to start putting on the damage control. Things are not looking good, especially with the momentum of 2 games now behind Team Solo Mid. And the taste of victory right on the tip of their tongue.
He's going to try a steal against Callista. Really hard to do.
Flew right over. Let's bounces down from that last engage. Remember, cannot get the slow on either. Looks like he will not be able to blob about well enough for the team to pick up kills. Team Solo Mid get out with another turret there in mid lane, a few kills, and then back to Dragon.
Yeah, Cloud9's in a really tough spot here. Down turrets, down kills, even in Dragons. Down in the series, knowing they have to win both this game and the next if they want to take the crown here in North America. Slight desperation mode might kick in for Cloud9.
Yep.
When that's kicked in so far this series, or even in IM Katowice, desperation mode for Cloud9 is a very dark place. You do not want to go there as Cloud9. They overcommit. Their smart play goes out the window. They need to remain controlled here. The 5-man push up the mid lane during recalls was smart. They do not need to turret dive. They just need to continue to trade objectives like Cloud9 did in their Game 1 victory.
Dark Cloud9. You don't want that.
Yeah.
That's the Thunderstorm. It's not working out for them. Here, looks like they have drifted towards the top lane, however. TSM not too worried about these outer turrets going down. It might be more of a danger for them to try and put protection on it, so they hold steady. Dyrus is going to be able to trade here in the bottom as he gets that Righteous Glory built up safely. And both teams are going to back. Oh, just take it down. You got big fists. 73 to 47 is out of that top lane, though. Definitely a pretty big disparity.
He wants to deny some CS, but the cannon lives, most likely. Yep.
That one time when you were like, minions, don't be so strong? No one ever said that. 14 minutes on this. TSM cracks a little bit more of the outside of the base as they themselves lost the top turret here. But Cloud9 is still, I think, waiting for TSM to make moves. They're not really the one that's going to be putting their foot out there first.
Well, they need to get a little bit later in the game. So
that's true. Just buy some time.
Vladimir can have an impact, is the main thing. Although the mid-game power spike, once again, at Bjergsen's mid laner is really hard to deal with. I mean, a couple of things coming into the series we thought might hinge it. Bjergsen and his ability to shut down high. Well, he has in most of these games, and Bjergsen's been an absolute force to be reckoned with in the mid-game or the late game, and tilts these matchups heavily. The second thing, though, is that Dyrus has actually been outperforming Balls in a global sense. They're mainly just the beneficiaries of support player lane swaps, but the TSM lane swaps have actually given Dyrus several advantages here. And that means the lone bright spots for Cloud9 would either be Meteos, who's been getting outfarmed by Santorin in most of the games, including this one, or Siki, who has actually been outperforming for the most part in CS. But you can't just have one guy. You need the whole team to be able to outperform in order to win a series. And that's why TSM may end up winning this one 3-1 if Cloud9 doesn't somehow come back from this 3,000 gold deficit.
Well, right now they are sitting on just the perfect amount of kills. They have 4. It's across their priority targets as well. Everybody has 1, so they are getting fed accordingly. And Cloud9 is only looking for the wave clear here. TSM knows they have C9 against the ropes, and they're going to continue to pressure this. You were talking about how kind of Dyrus is also outplaying Balls. Like the way with the bans against Balls, they almost forced him to play the Dyrus game of safety. You're not going to be providing much for the team, and all year Dyrus has been playing that, so he's going to be better at it on the spot.
Yeah, heavy Hecarim bans. When Cloud9 has been on the red side, TSM has been banning Vladimir as well.
Right.
So this time at least Balls is on the Vladimir, but in the early game he's heavily shut down. So it's not like he's been able to lane against Maokai and assert his dominance.
Exactly. Also looking for the pressure here from High, one of his most winningest champions that he could have selected here, especially in the finals. That puts a lot of pressure on him, being the shot caller and the one to be one of the priority playmakers here on Zed. And it doesn't look like right now he's going to get the chance to zero out too many people with that death mark.
Yep, defensive builds across the board. Cinder Hulk on Vi. Cho'Gath, very, very strong man. Unless you get in the Burn of Silence, he can wait for the death mark to silence you. Bloodthirster on Wild Turtle for the extra shield, and Kenning can ult himself to stun Zed when he goes in. So really High, relegated to split pushing or hoping to come in late during a team fight. Or maybe just ulted in a side lane. He's dead.
Everybody coming in for the fight here. Look at Bjergsen has even chugged a sorcery elixir 16 minutes into the game to add more damage to his Cho'Gath this time. Last time it was the Kog'Maw, but they want to make sure the points of spiking in their damage is right now.
It's getting to a point where Bjergsen's just going to hit level 9 and go buy an elixir. At this point, he's building it earlier in every game.
Every time.
The spike that TSM wants in power. This time, after just a Morellonomicon and a Seekers, he goes for it. But they end up getting a kill, and now they have an odd man fight. Down bottom, more turrets.
Wow. Really seeing that each game so far. Obviously, this game has a lot to go, but games 2 and 3, games that TSM used to calibrate what they were doing, get the organization together. A very textbook start and roll to this game. 18 minutes in, 5K gold lead as TSM plays very calm and collected.
And 2 levels in the top lane matchup.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if Vladimir wins that matchup against Maokai if he's never getting experience. Maokai can then take it back on his side. 15 seconds till Dragon Riv. I think that's a really important thing here. TSM just needs to control that. They even have the teleport advantage, so the best that Cloud9 could hope for is that TSM commits Dyrus to the Dragon fight. Cloud9 needs to find a way of committing Dyrus to the Dragon fight without suffering any casualties so that Vladimir can get farmed up. That's the only win Cloud9 can take from this situation, assuming TSM plays well.
Well, Balls is backing right now. Teleport will not be up for him. Dyrus will be the one coming in here. So it looks like they may just have to give this one up again. They're warding it to show that they actually want to put some control on that area. Hopefully it buys him enough time for Balls to get back out here, but it looks like he is actually taking the path to the top lane.
I think that's what Balls should be doing. He needs to use his time to farm. But if they commit, if TSM commits Dyrus, you would hope that Vladimir can actually get multiple waves of farm and some turret pressure. Or Cloud9, they're just trying to trade objectives because TSM has so much control, especially with Bjergsen's Cho'Gath and the tank Vi to just fly in and set up an easy rupture. It's just objective trading through and through. But yeah, it's completely forfeit there by Cloud9.
Yeah, we saw Elimination was already going toward Baron, making sure they have the ladder objectives covered to let this one go. They don't need to fall any farther behind here. Too much of a risk. 5-1 here as the second dragon, actually third dragon of the game gets picked up. A second one for Team Solo Mid here. Reminiscent of that scoreline of last game. It was 20-4 in favor of TSM. 5-1. Keep that going. Maybe the same thing.
Looks like it. I mean, TSM is on the path to victory for sure here. Smart and controlled play. They do have a very low damage team composition if this game stretches to be too late. Tank Vi, Cinderhulk Frozenheart, Righteous Glory Spirit Visage Maokai, Bloodthirster first AD carry, Cho'Gath in the mid lane who can burst but doesn't have sustained damage. That team does not kill that many people late game. If it gets late game, Cloud9 could take this, but it has to get to 40 minutes somehow without the gold lead being greater than 10,000 and without TSM having 5 dragons.
Well, another 5,000 gold is what TSM is looking for right now. Nobody's going to throw a loan at them, so they have to get it themselves. Over here, Balls could be a bit of that funding. It looks like he's able to pull himself to safety here. So TSM starting to work the aggression around the map, getting any picks that they can, and the turrets are going to fall shortly here as Cloud9 is, I believe, going to start just using everything in defense to dodge these attacks from Team Solo Mid. So effective.
So to be fair, that's more effective than you'd think because he broke the turret shield. The turret shield is very little now. Once you break it on the turret, it doesn't give any shield to the people hiding there. Lustboy understands this game right here.
You saying you can't see me? Everything behind the curtain. You can see Cloud9 kind of spreading themselves thin here, walking back and forth. Elimination is trying to tend to multiple lanes, sweep multiple wards. High going down to the bottom side here. This is Cloud9 trying to, not make a move. That turret goes down, the pressure's relieved, and he needs to go as well.
Really solid play by TSM.
Yep.
Really just controlling the rotations. 5 turrets to 3, hoping to continue that pressure, get a 6th, get all the outer turrets down. Then they can start pressuring Baron, and they can take Dragon on respawn. That's the plan for TSM. If they want to win their 3rd game in a row, get another reverse sweep on their opponent. Semifinals against Team Impulse, they lost the first game, won the next 3. Here against Cloud9, lost the first game, very close in game 2, carried by Bjergsen's AP Cogma. These last 2, though, as far as the first 20 minutes go, have been heavily in favor of TSM. They get stronger and stronger throughout these best-of-5 series. It's becoming a trademark of TSM.
Sticking with things that work as well, especially for Lustboy. If they're getting banned out consistently, stays with the Kennen and the Kalista 2 games in a row. Something we haven't seen all year from these guys. Really, in any other region but LPL, to be honest. They're playing it quite well, however, and definitely showing that it's something they had in the back pocket. Ace in the sleeve, if you will. Looks like that Runons is finished up onto Wild Turtle. He's going to be really hard to get a lockdown on now, especially without having super hard crowd control here on the side of Cloud9. Hello. Oh, my word!
Whoa!
I was going to say he's getting dinner, but that would look like an appetizer.
I've said it before and I'll say it again, but good lord, Bjergsen is crushing right now. One rupture, instantly dead.
It's
Flash,
bad
eat, ignite.
when you wins. Whew, that hurt me. Wow. Bjergsen, no matter what champion he is on, he is ready to flash float forward and make instant plays. The lucidity boots for him as well, allowing him to keep spitting out that crowd control and silence, and it has picked him up another kill. Now over to Baron. This is pretty much uncontested. However, here's the teleport in from Balls. They're going for broke.
To contest. It's a 23-minute Baron. TSM actually takes a fair bit of damage here. Elimination goes really early.
Only a 2-man Hemo Plague actually going down on that. that. Good damage over to Turtle. Bjergsen's very hurt here. Lustboy and 400 HP just flashes over the wall, and that could easily be finished off if somebody focuses their tunnel down to Dyrus, though. How does he pop? Sneaky before he gets out. They're going to walk this one away. He's, however, bringing them over to Lustboy, and Lustboy is saying, "Don't you do that to me." What a hit. Gets Meteos on the slingshot over the wall. He's eventually going to go down, but he is completely buying time for the team, and Cloud9 is going to get hardly anything with TSM being down here.
TSM overestimates their ability to do Baron by far right there. 22 minutes does not fall very quickly. Bjergsen also was completely out of summoner spells before that fight. Therefore, when Cloud9 comes in, they destroyed them. Meteos gets off a Dream Ultimate, and Sneaky gets best case scenario fight. Not a Cho'Gath that can flash or feast you at any point. No cannon ultimate on Sneaky. Meteos is bouncing around. Sneaky is free hitting in the back because of no Dyrus until later on in the fight, and they were a sliver away from acing TSM right there if they picked off those two other guys. A horrendous call there by TSM to go for Baron. They had 6 turrets. They just had to wait for the Dragons to come up, and they give a small window for Cloud9 to come back.
That teleport from Dyrus, it looks like the entire team was just like, we have this. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Really could have been used a lot earlier, but you can always say something else about the fight after it's done. Played very well there by Cloud9. 4-7 on the scoreboard as they start to scratch back without letting TSM get too much along the way. Blade of the Rune King and Last Whisper now finished up here for high. He's going to be able to start cutting through some of these tanks that got to some very early items on Team Solo Mid. Bjergsen's looking for his 3rd already, 25 minutes into the game.
Death cap goes down on a Bjergsen.
It's only 500 more gold for him.
He was already one-shotting people.
Yeah. One-shot the guy you want to stay alive. The guy who wants to one-shot your team. And High is not able to do that right now. This one's going to be taken down. See where Bjergsen's at right now. He is at 6 stacks. Yep, coming off of the Scuttle Crab.
Feasts up very quickly. 10,800 gold, almost 3,000 gold ahead of High.
Wow.
But the interesting thing is Sneaky at 9,700 gold, 500 more than Wild Turtle. If Sneaky gets to a point where he's got Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer, Last Whisper, and Bloodthirster, as well as his Spell Shield, and he does not get caught by any major CCs from TSM, that's the Sivir dream in this game. Because it is a bunch of tanks, Sivir can try and ricochet through them, lifesteal up with the shield. If he avoids the major spike damage, he could try and one-man carry this Cloud9 team. It's highly unlikely that that happens, but that is what Cloud9 needs to work towards.
Right now, they are trying to split it up. Split push is the name of the game here. High tends to the side waves. We already saw him try to pressure the bottom, but Cloud9 is lacking a bit of control on the map. It's just easily stopped every time by Team Solo Mid right now. Maybe some forward wards, something for Cloud9 to really put themselves back in this game. What's the fastest way they stop the bleeding right now?
For Cloud9?
Yeah.
It's mainly continuing to shove out these waves and giving up dragons all the way until number 5. The hardest part about this, though, is maintaining vision control around the Baron area without TSM taking it for free. Therefore, it's really hard to avoid overall fights because there's soon to be a Righteous Glory Maokai and a Cho'Gath. I mean, we already saw what happened when Bjergsen got caught. Now Lemon gets caught. Maybe they get a nice corridor fight.
Twisted advance to pop-up. Nice let's bounce there from Meteos. The team has to assess the fight on the side of Team Solo Mid. They get themselves into good positioning. Bjergsen, Lustboy, and Wild Turtle all on the back line. Able to fire forward here. Now moving into the fight. You gotta watch once the train is on the tracks. You better move. And here comes Bjergsen. The rupture goes off and just misses Sneaky. Got off the tracks for sure.
Yeah, that's just the power of TSM, forcing those fights around Baron. They know exactly what they need to do, oftentimes, in order to secure victory. They just had a little bit wrong 7 minutes ago. They have to win a fight before taking Baron. They can't just take Baron. This time they get a nice catch on Elimination. Dyrus miraculously stays alive. TSM takes Baron.
Strong fights coming from Team Solo Mid. This fight almost actually mirrored what we saw earlier. If Meteos is on this side with Sejuani, that's the fight that won Cloud9 Game 1.
Yeah, good ultimate there, except it just hits 2 there. They didn't catch Bjergsen or Wild Turtle, that's the big thing. And positioning-wise, if we watch Sneaky, he's in a really good place right now. However, he's just not strong enough yet. You can see
Dyrus.
he can't cut through the Ninja Tabi Frozen Heart of Dyrus. If he had a Last Whisper, maybe he could, but that's only going to be in 1,000 gold. If the tank line would have gone down, then maybe Sneaky could have started doing something. But with the tank line in that corridor, until he crushes that down, they're not getting much. Now with Baron, it may be too late because Sneaky finally has his Last Whisper.
Indeed. It's going to be some big damage coming from Cloud9. Props to Wild Turtle from Dyrus there on that one. Summoner heal keeping him alive throughout that fight. Spirit Visage giving him a nice chunk to stay in it. TSM now pressuring even harder with that Baron. Now able to spread Cloud9 thin. Not the way they wanted it. They were hoping it was on their split push terms. And they're going to have to defend the base.
Giant Shogath eating your turret right now. Cloud9 is not in great position. They do not want to give up an inhibitor this early in the game, but it is such a powerful TSM tank line going into their base.
It might be inevitable, chat. You're going to have to watch out. Nobody can really get by Bjergsen. He's just going to shut you up and pop you up if you try to get through to the rest of the team. And they don't even have everybody here to start doing this. Dyrus still to the top side, knows he is safe, and TSM is working the advantage textbook style now as they're about to close it out for the win.
Yeah, and Bjergsen's level 16 right now, which means his ultimate does over 1,000 true damage. Cloud9 has to fight, but look out!
It's the go for broke here from Cloud9 on their front doorstep. They try one last time to stave off Team Solo Mid. They get the wave clear to make sure it has to be a tank of the turret. Now with that next wave coming in, TSM is able to start walking through. Remember, the bottom inhibitor's already down. Minions are going to start crashing in if this isn't the final push, and it's only going to get harder for Cloud9.
Yeah, it may prep the final push, though, Riv. 2 inhibitors in quick succession during the Baron buff. Plus Cena coming in pretty big this game.
Yeah.
It's mainly been that Bjergsen Shogath, though. Just a monster. 1,050 damage from his feast. Also, not only does a silence shut you up, it also does close to 750 damage.
And he's got some relatively low cooldown.
Yeah. The ultimate now is 1,134 damage with the Baron buff. And true damage, that is.
Ugh. You're not getting out alive. You're going to be in his belly. And that's not fun.
Yeah, they actually are getting the third push while they still have the Baron buff.
This is, if you're going to take the final game, this is the way to do it. Losing game 1, but being able to come back stronger and stronger throughout each game consecutively. Now game 3, it looks like TSM could have had this from the get-go.
Yeah, very rarely does a team come back from 3 inhibs down. Meteos take some damage. TSM needs to wait for their minions, unless Cloud9 over-engages. Here we go!
Oh, the over-engage indeed. Elimination on the outside gets bounced. Dyrus, he wants it. Dives in onto balls. The Sanguine Pool saves him just in the last second. The 1v1 of Bjergsen and High. The bite goes down, but High is alive, and Bjergsen dies to the turrets. Turtle now is the focus. Depth charge into Anchor Toss. They lock him down with the passive, but he is hopping around way too much on Callista. Turtle a double. Turtle a triple. Turtle a quadra. Could he be coming up with a penta? High stays on the fountain, the quadra kill once again to come up with Team Solo Mid's pivotal win on the North American Spring Split, and they will do it once again. The consecutive wins for Team Solo Mid, the Nexus falls, and Championship Series Spring Split champions.
And just like that, it is over. Team Solo Mid, their 3rd split championship in North America against the only other team to win a split championship there.